After moving into a new house, a couple's neighbors started keeping an eye on them. A man, a woman, and her son seemed to be obsessed with constantly watching them. Whether during the day or at night, the family is caught on camera approaching the property. When the couple is finally tired of this behavior, they confront the father of the family, who has a strange and worrying behavior. The story you are about to see is loosely based on the footage. When you move into a new place, there is one very important aspect that you don't know how it is until you live there for a while. The neighbors. Throughout my life, I have lived in many different houses. Actually, there have only been two. The place I was during my childhood and the home I have been in until now, when my girlfriend and I decided to move in together. Anyway, the point is that I've never had problems with the neighbors before, as they used to be quiet and friendly. So it was a huge surprise to run into the Davis family.
I'm so happy to be here with you, honey.
Me too, babe.
We used to live in a small town where everyone knew each other, so it was new and different being in a rural place with only two other houses nearby. Still, that was no bother to us. In fact, Faith and I were very excited, but that would change during the first few weeks. The day after we moved into our new home, the Smith family, who lived across the street, brought us a dessert to welcome us to the place.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Smith. It's an amazing welcome. It looks delicious. It's a pleasure, Faith. But, I wouldn't expect the same from the Davises. Huh? You know, I wouldn't expect them to welcome you with open arms. In fact, I would keep an eye on them.
When my girlfriend told me what the neighbor had said, I asked her to calm down.
I've heard that the neighbors are sometimes troublesome or have difficult attitudes, but relax, we can handle it.
In fact, the days passed and they hadn't even spoken to us, so I figured they were just loners. Until during a Friday before going to work, I went out to the garden. It was then that I realized there, on top of the fence that separated the houses, was a teenage boy with brown hair and a thick complexion looking through binoculars. Suddenly, at his side appeared Mr. Davis, an old man with gray hair and a mustache who was wearing glasses and a cap.
Hey, what are you doing there?
As soon as I spoke, Mr. Davis came down from the top of the fence, leaving the teenager alone.
I was just looking for something. I thought I dropped it around here.
Okay, but next time you should let me know. I could help you if you need it.
Sure.
That encounter left me with a bad feeling, but I decided to put it aside and go to work without thinking about it anymore. Later, when I returned, my girlfriend told me what happened between her and Miss Davis. When Faith came home from shopping, as she went out into the garden, the neighbor was there, looking over the fence. She was an old woman, like her husband, fat and with black and gray hair, who was also wearing glasses.
Hello?
The woman just stared at my girlfriend for a few seconds.
Do you need something, Mrs. Davis?
Shut up.
Excuse me?
This is my house. I can do whatever I want.
I understand, Mrs. Davis, but you're looking into my property. You can't... And without letting me finish, she got down from the fence without saying anything else.
I hadn't had a chance to tell my girlfriend what had happened that morning with Mr. Davis and his son, but I decided not to. She was already too nervous to worry further.
I'll talk to them tomorrow, okay? I'll make them understand that they have to respect us.
Thank you, honey.
With that thought in mind, Faith and I ate dinner and then went to sleep. Perhaps because of how worried I was, I woke up in the middle of the night. For a while, I tried to go back to sleep, but I couldn't. Since I was thirsty, I got up to go get a glass of water. As I entered the kitchen, I realized that a light from outside was shining on it through a window. As I approached it, I noticed that the neighbors had a lamp on.
Huh.
Without thinking much about it, I poured myself the water and began to drink it. Then I started to hear some noises. It sounded as if something was moving in the grass. Of course, I went back to the window. Between the bushes that separated the houses, Miss Davis's head was poking out. Her large eyes were staring from side to side of the house, as if she were looking for or watching something. Suddenly, we looked at each other, and instead of her leaving like her husband had that morning, the woman started laughing. Even if I couldn't hear her, her haunting smile made my skin goosebumps. I was so shocked I couldn't move, so we stayed like that until she finally left.
What the heck?
The next morning, I was too tired as I hadn't been able to sleep.
Are you feeling all right, honey?
I didn't sleep at all.
Why don't you rest? I'll take care of everything.
No, I should go talk to the neighbors.
Without waiting any longer, I got out of bed, changed my clothes, and went to knock on the front door of the neighbor's house. It didn't take long for someone to speak on the other side.
What do you want?
I imagine you already know that, Mrs. Davis.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I just want to talk, okay? Could you come out?
No, don't bother me.
Can I speak to your husband then?
No, he is not at home. Go away.
Soon I heard footsteps moving away from the door, so I went back to my house.
You can't reason with them!
Honey,
What is it?
Mr. Davis is out there. He was watching me.
I'm not surprised his wife lied. Stay here. I'm gonna have a chat with him. Good morning, Mr. Davis. Can we talk? Why are you doing this?
I had taken out my cell phone and was recording in case he thought of doing something. But instead of answering me, the man began to cover the cell phone camera with his hand. Gradually, Mr. Davis began to laugh louder and louder.
What the heck?
What do you think you're doing?
Suddenly, the man's wife approached.
I told you you couldn't talk to my husband. He is sick.
You guys keep invading our privacy.
I don't care. This is our property. All this is ours. Don't you dare say it's yours. And don't bother my husband again or I'll rip your tongue out.
After that, I knew it. The whole family was sick. Sometimes there are people who are just out of their mind. It is for this reason that I am currently reporting them to the police with all the recordings I have, while my girlfriend and I try to ignore the Davis family as much as we can.
When we got off the train, we found ourselves standing in the small hill station. Grabbing our trolleys, we came out looking for a cab that could take us to a shelter for the night. An old cab driver was sitting inside his worn-out cab and dozing. Matthew knocked on his window, and the driver looked at us with confused eyes.
What's the nearest hotel?
What?
We need a place to stay for the night. Can you take us somewhere?
Yeah, there's a cabin in the woods. No hotel here, only that cabin.
Fine, take us there.
Saying this, we got into the back seat, and the old man started the car. The view was spectacular, even on that rain-drenched day. Tall green mountains on one side and pine woods on the other were making my eyes dazzle. So beautiful.
Just like you.
Stop it, you're being so cheesy.
Well, it's our honeymoon after all.
I laughed, hearing Matthew. We got married last month, but couldn't go on our honeymoon then due to home renovation. So here we are, finally getting the chance to have our long-awaited honeymoon. After 20 minutes, the cab driver dropped us in front of a narrow, muddy road and said,
Shelter Mountain Inn is right at the end of this road.
He drove away, and we started to walk toward the night's stay. The Shelter Mountain Inn was an open campsite with a handful of old, rusty wooden cabins available for rental. A small wooden hut with a signboard, Innkeeper's Office, was standing at the entrance of the campsite. Entering, we found a very dirty-looking man dressed in brown trousers and a dusty white vest, which was no longer white, standing behind a small counter, smoking a cigarette. Seeing us, his face lightened up into a creepy, big smile. He spoke in a raspy but deep voice.
Welcome! Welcome!
We need a cabin to stay for the night. Do you have any vacancy?
All are vacant at this moment, sir. I don't get many customers during this monsoon, but I can't say I feel lonely here.
Saying this, he weirdly looked outside as if someone else was there. I whispered to Matthew, "He is being so creepy."
Come on, it's only for one night. We'll take the cabin then. How much?
$50 for a night, sir.
$50? Aren't you charging a little high considering the condition of this place?
I will give you the special couple cottage, sir.
Whatever. Fine.
He gave us a key and said,
Go straight to the left. It's the last cabin on the corner.
We thanked him and went to our cabin, which was registered as cabin number B4. It was a small wooden cabin with dining space, an attached bath, and a cozy bedroom. Surprisingly, the cabin was cleaner than I expected. What surprised me the most was the wall-mounted wooden shelf stacked with old videotapes.
Who the hell watches videotapes these days?
Matthew started to check out the collection while I changed into my pajamas after a long, tiring day. A thunderstorm started outside, and I started the fireplace for some warmth. Having nothing else to do, Matthew and I decided to watch a tape. We were deciding on which one to watch when I noticed this black videotape with no name tag on it. Feeling a little curious, we played the tape. Neither of us expected to see the bizarre recordings. The tape ended abruptly, and the TV screen turned off on its own. I was already creeped out by the content I had just watched. What the hell was that?
I don't know. Did you see that woman? Why was she behaving that way?
I told you I hated this place. Everything feels so weird here.
Did you hear that?
Hear what?
The tapping sound.
Come on, enough of the stupid games. Stop scaring me.
No, I'm not joking. Listen carefully.
Both of us remained quiet, and this time I heard a low tapping sound, like somebody was tapping on a glass. Matthew and I looked out the cabin window right beside the fireplace. Except for heavy rain and lightning, we couldn't see anyone there, but the sound again took place, and this time it was louder. My eyes immediately shifted to the TV screen. Is it coming from there? Matthew walked close to the TV screen and stooped down to it. I could hear my breathing getting faster and heavier. How could someone possibly knock from inside the television? Matthew placed his ear on the black screen, trying to hear, but no sound came out of it.
Help me! Judy, help me!
Oh my God! I grabbed Matthew's hand and started pulling him away with all my strength. But whoever was pulling him inside the TV seemed to be way more powerful than me. No matter how hard I tried, Matthew's body got sucked into the television. In front of my very own eyes, I saw my husband disappearing into the black screen. I fell to the ground, shaking and panting in fear, and thick black liquid dripped from the TV screen. Everything went silent. I could only hear my heartbeat. And then, suddenly, the TV screen turned on. The woman we saw in the footage flashed on the screen, but this time she was looking right into my eyes. Her face. Oh God, her face. I had never seen anything that horrifying. She smiled at me, ear to ear, and then put her filthy finger on her lips and made a shushing sound. Shh. Who are you? What did you do to my husband? She opened her dark, hollow mouth and pointed her finger inside it, gesturing that she had eaten my husband. A hunger-satisfying smile appeared on her face, and the screen went black one more time. I fainted to the floor. The next morning, I woke up, hearing a familiar voice.
Judy! Judy! Get up! The car's arrived. We're gonna be late, darling. Get up now!
I opened my eyes and found myself lying on the bed in my pajamas. Matthew was sitting right beside me with a big smile on his face. I got up, shocked.
You're alive?
What? Were you wishing me dead on our honeymoon?
No, that videotape, the woman on the TV.
What are you saying?
I rushed to the dining room, but even after a thorough search, I couldn't find that tape with no name tag. After explaining everything to my husband, he laughed at me and said I just had a bad dream. He also said that I passed out on the couch watching some old black and white movie last night, and that he carried me to bed. Shockingly, I don't remember any of this. It all felt so real that I just can't accept it as a mere bad dream. We're finally loading our luggage into the car. I'm glad we're soon to leave this freaky place. Matthew is so happy, and I'm trying my best to erase that horrible memory from last night. What gives me more relief is the fact that there never was a cursed tape.
In the video, you can see the security guard of this cemetery noticing a weird old woman sitting in front of a grave. She behaves in a creepy way when the guard calls out to her. Here is a dramatized version, loosely based on this scary real footage, of a security guard finding an old woman inside a cemetery past midnight under suspicious circumstances.
So, what brings a young fellow like you to this small town?
Well, honestly, I wish to be an artist and needed a calm and quiet place for my work.
I see.
How long have you been living here, Mr. Mayor?
Too long to remember, I think.
I'm looking for a part-time job as well. Any vacancies you know about?
Well, I know Carmen the pig farm guy is looking for a butcher, but I don't think you would like that job much.
I smiled awkwardly, hearing the town mayor laugh. We both remained silent for a few seconds. Then Mr. Laving said,
There's another opening, a job of a security guard.
Great! That works for me.
But it's a little different than any other safeguarding jobs.
Why is that?
We have this town cemetery which is facing a lot of vandalism and suspicious activities. High school kids sneak in there to do all kinds of stupid stuff. So for quite a while I was trying to appoint someone there, but no one in this town prefers roaming in a cemetery after dark. The pay is good, but you will be working in a graveyard shift that is also in a graveyard.
The job description suited me well. I could concentrate on my artwork all day and work at night from 11 p.m. to 2 a.m. So within a week, this matter got settled as I accepted the job. Mr. Laving paid me well from the town fund, and I became the night guard at the town cemetery. On the day of the first shift, Mr. Laving took me to the cemetery to show me around. On the tall, rusty iron gate, the name of the cemetery was written. High Hopes, since 1940s.
Wow, this place has been here for a really long time.
We entered the cemetery, and I could see displays of tombstones and rows and columns. I had no idea how huge this place was until we walked in. I won't lie, but even in the daylight, roaming around the place made me feel a little weird. There was only one gate of the cemetery, and stone benches scattered around the area for people to sit when they visited their deceased loved ones. Looking around with suspicious eyes, Mr. Laving said,
Be here at 11 p.m. sharp. In case of anything spooky happens, feel free to call me.
Nice one, Mr. Laving, but I don't believe in ghosts.
He stared at me for a second and then said in a mysterious voice,
Let me tell you, my boy, this place looks like another world after sundown.
Around 10:45, I left my house with a flashlight and a hunting knife just in case Mr. Laving was right. The town was so damn quiet after dark, When I reached the cemetery and stared at the old gate, I can't lie, it did give me goosebumps. As I pushed the rusty gate, with a creaking sound, it opened, and a couple of bats flew away from a nearby tree. A coyote howled in the woods, followed by a hooting owl. The ambiance was lit, no doubt.
Perfect for a horror movie,
I said to myself. Turning on my flashlight, I started my rounds. The place was so silent that I could hear my breathing and my footsteps. For 5 minutes straight, nothing happened. I was settling in well with the new environment when suddenly I heard a weeping sound. A voice of a weeping woman echoed. I followed the sound and came to the other end of the cemetery. As I flashed my light onto a grave, I saw an old woman sitting on a bench right in front of that grave. She had gray short hair and was weeping sitting in front of that grave.
Ma'am, the visiting hours are in the morning. You shouldn't be here at this time. Ma'am?
She stopped weeping, slowly turned her face towards me, and looked me in the eyes. I swear, anyone else would have run away at that moment, but I just stood there with mixed feelings. After staring at me without blinking once, the woman said,
The voices told me to come here and see him.
What? See who?
A creepy smile appeared on her face, and she said,
Do you know how many of them want to exchange places with you right now?
The hair at the back of my neck stood up. I could feel my heart pounding in my chest.
What do you mean?
After all, who enjoys living in a box?
Ma'am, you should be going home. I can help to show you the way.
What if I don't have a home?
The woman didn't look like a homeless person, but the way she talked made her look like a deranged lunatic, no doubt.
Well, if you are homeless, I can talk to Mayor Laving.
Do you believe in helping the homeless?
Yes, of course.
Then take me home with you.
I wasn't expecting our weird conversation to take an even more weird turn. So her answer shocked me. Something was wrong with her, which made me scared to go near her.
Ma'am, that's not possible. Let me just call the mayor. I'm sure he'll come up with something for you.
But if I followed you home, would you keep me?
God, I think you need some medical help, ma'am. I'm calling the mayor.
I was 1 sec away to dial the mayor when she got up from her seat and turned towards. She suddenly began laughing. Her body stood still like a log. Only her face moved. It was so creepy to witness her behavior like that. Suddenly, she slapped herself. Wham! Right on the cheek, and screamed in a man's voice.
You promised you wouldn't be like this. You promised, Samantha.
Who gave you the right to slap me?
I am your husband.
But you're the one who left me when I needed you.
You know I had to. No one can live forever.
But you promised me we would never be apart. You said you loved me, Gerald. Gerald?
As freaky as it was to watch her having this entire conversation with herself while speaking in two distinctive voices, I had no idea what to do and how to react. She started screaming for Gerald and then turned around to follow someone invisible standing in the dark.
Gerald? Gerald, please don't go away. I promise I'll behave. Please come back.
She began to run, and I was so worried for her because, by that time, I have got some idea what is wrong with her.
Ma'am, stop, please!
I ran behind her because she was old and sick, and it would have been cruel if I left her that night. After chasing the air for a minute straight, she let out a painful scream and fainted on the ground.
Ah!
What I found out later still brings tears to my eyes. The woman's name was Judith Laving. She was the old aunt of Mr. Laving. Last week, she lost her husband, Gerald Laving, to cancer, and since then, started having hallucinations about her deceased husband. It was the first time she left home in the middle of the night to visit her husband's grave. Seeing one person talk in behalf of two was surely the most bewitching experience of my life. Mr. Laving and his family later sent her to a mental institution, so she doesn't scare anyone else in the town, as she did to me. I am continuing my job in the cemetery, and even though Judith is gone from this town, every night at my rounds, I get scared thinking I will see her sitting near her husband's grave with a creepy grin. During the night, and with the help of a flashlight, a person is approaching an abandoned house in this footage. Once they are close to one of the windows of the place, they see some strange symbols and candles inside. In the next room, they find something much more disturbing. A sheet covering what appears to be a body surrounded by candles. The story you are about to see is a dramatized animated version of this scary found footage.
I understand there are people who don't like horror movies, of course, but I can't live without them. Or at least that's how it was before. I was such a fan that I used to watch every horror movie I could find. At first, I did it alone, but then I met Daniel and Anthony, who liked them as much, if not more than me. But over time, we began to stop feeling that adrenaline that we used to enjoy so much. That's when Daniel made us a proposal.
Guys, wouldn't you like us to experience those things ourselves?
What do you mean?
You know, going out, exploring, experiencing paranormal situations. I mean, doesn't that sound great? It really sounds just like what we need.
Yeah, let's do it. That's how we started going to abandoned buildings, basements, attics, cemeteries, and all those places where paranormal events were common. We even used to carry several cameras so we could record in the hope of capturing something interesting. The three of us had a great time together in those creepy places, but now everything is different. After what happened last month, I don't think I'll ever do it again. It was a Saturday morning. Daniel, Anthony, and I planned that exploration weeks earlier, and it was finally the day, which had us quite excited. They arrived at my house, and we stayed there together until nightfall, at which point we got into Daniel's car and headed to the place we were going to visit.
We're almost there!
Sometime after that, my friend started to slow down and finally parked the car on the side of the highway, next to the woods. Soon we all got out, grabbed our backpacks and flashlights, and headed into the forest. At that time, the place was really dark and very cold, but we were as prepared as ever. Still, I started to feel doubtful once we had walked for half an hour and no buildings seemed to be close by.
Daniel, was the place supposed to be so far away? You never told us it would take so long to get there.
Chill out, Jen.
His answer only made me hesitate more.
Are you sure there's a place around here?
Oh my gosh, Jen, yes, of course I am.
If you say so, but...
Guys?
What's wrong, Tony?
I turned to see my friend, who was desperately looking for something in his backpack.
You didn't bring a camera, did you? I'm pretty sure we told you to bring it. I'm sure I did. Maybe I just left it in the car. I'll go find it, okay? Sure. I'll send you the location once we're there. Yeah.
Daniel and I continued walking for a while, until, in the distance, we began to see a structure. It appeared to be a small white house.
It has to be that one. I'll tell Tony.
As we got closer, I noticed more details of the place. Of course, it was dirty and had plants growing on its walls. The window we could see from this side was broken. It looked like most abandoned houses.
Jen?
I didn't turn to look at him as I walked, as I was too focused on the house.
Yeah?
Wait, stop. Tony's not receiving my messages.
What?
Look!
My friend showed me his cell phone, where what he told me was clearly shown, but I didn't think it was a big deal, so I turned back to the house.
Maybe his cell phone has no signal, that's all.
That doesn't make any sense. My cell phone has signal, Jen.
Before I could answer Daniel again, through the window of the house, I saw a shadow move.
Did you see that? It has to be something. Let's go.
Wait, Jen!
Pointing my flashlight at the spot, I started running through the tall grass toward the place. As soon as I saw what was there on the floor, covered by a blanket and surrounded by lighted candles, I backed away.
What the?
My heart started beating fast. In just a few seconds, the situation had completely changed. Those weren't paranormal events. There was something really bad going on here. I was standing a few inches from the house when suddenly something touched my right shoulder, so I couldn't help but let out a scream.
Ah! What the heck? Did I scare you, Jen?
Realizing it was Daniel didn't reassure me. In fact, I felt in much more danger since I had made noise. Soon I began to hyperventilate, so I covered my mouth.
Jen? What's wrong?
There's something there.
My friend approached the place. I knew he had seen it the moment he backed away.
Oh my God.
Let's go, Daniel.
Wait, what if someone needs help? We have to report it.
I saw him take out his cell phone from one of his pants pockets, but he put it back in seconds later.
My cell phone has no signal.
My friend started to get closer to the house.
Wait, what are you doing?
Stay there. I'll just see what it is, and then we'll go.
Unable to stop him, I watched as Daniel entered the room. He brought one of his hands to the blanket, but before he could pull it away, a person appeared.
It was a smiling woman. She didn't look young, but she didn't look old either. Her hair was very long, and she was wearing white clothes.
Hi. Do you like what I did? It looks good, doesn't it? I'm sure it will work.
What do you mean? What is this?
I'm sure you guys know that, don't you? After all, you're here.
What the heck are you talking about? Are you out of your mind?
There must be a reason. You wanted to be here. You guys have to know what I'm trying to do. I'll summon someone. I'll bring them back to life.
What do you have here?
My friend once again brought one of his hands close to the blanket.
Don't touch it. You're gonna ruin everything. Do not touch it.
The woman grabbed one of Daniel's arms to try to prevent him from removing the blanket.
Daniel!
Unconsciously, I approached them, although I was still outside the building.
Get away!
In a quick movement, he pushed the woman, who fell to the ground. Being close to Daniel, I could see that she had caused some marks on his arm. Finally, he pulled back the blanket. That's when we saw him. It was Anthony who was under it. His eyes were closed, his skin pale, and he seemed not to be breathing. I still can't remember clearly what happened next. Daniel told me that he and I got far enough away to have a cell phone signal and call the police, but when he returned to the house, the woman was nowhere to be found. A few days later, we went to our friend's funeral, but I still can't believe he's dead. I can't accept that night we led him straight to his death at the hands of the crazy woman they're still looking for. In the video, you can see a woman trying to escape a man who followed her to her apartment. She was only seconds away from getting inside when the man ran toward her at full speed, trying to catch her. The following animation is loosely based on this scary footage. This happened in 2008, when I was working in a department store. Being a young, female employee, I often had to face creeps at work. Weird men would hit on me and make sly comments whenever they approached my counter. I was used to people like this after a point and gradually built up my comebacks to get rid of such men. It was a Wednesday afternoon. I was working like usual when I felt someone was watching me. As I lifted my eyes to look around, I saw a guy staring at me from the corner shelves. His eyes were so big that it kind of made me cringe. Still, I kept calm and concentrated on my work. The guy kept roaming around the store aimlessly and looked at me every 5 seconds. Slowly, he walked toward me, and I was ready to insult the hell out of him. He smiled awkwardly and said,
Sorry if I made you uncomfortable.
I didn't expect him to apologize like that, so I fumbled. Oh, no, it's fine.
I just thought, well, I don't know what I thought. A pretty girl like you would never agree to go with a loser like me, so, I'm sorry, I'm rambling, but it's true, you are pretty. I bet you already you already knew that, though.
Now I couldn't help but blush, and also laugh at the same time, seeing him struggling like a teenager.
At least I made you laugh.
We both chuckled. He said his name was Damien, and he worked at the local garage. I won't deny that his awkward proposal felt kind of refreshing. I also felt bad for mistaking him for a creep, so we went for coffee during my lunch break. We talked, and he seemed like a nice guy. When I noticed it was time to get back to work, I got up, saying, "So, it's time for me to get back to the store. I'll see you around then."
My friends are having a party tonight. If you want, I could pick you up after work. I want to know you more, I guess.
Saying this, he smiled and scratched his head. I blushed again and agreed. I had nothing to do that evening anyway, so going to a party seemed like a good plan. I went back to work and finished my shift in excitement. It had been a long time since I had dated someone. Before leaving the store, I went to the washroom, fixed my hair, and put on some lipstick to look good enough. I had just come out from the store, thinking Damien would be there any minute. As I turned around, I almost screamed in shock.
Hello!
You scared me! Damien stood right behind me, as if he never left. He expanded his eyes widely and said,
Ready to go to the party?
Yeah, let's go. I noticed he hadn't brought a car, when I clearly remembered him saying he would pick me up. Maybe his friends were partying nearby, so I didn't make a fuss about it. We started walking on the sidewalk. It was 9 p.m., and the streets were stranded already. I asked him, "So, where do you live?"
Close by.
I see. How was your day?
Boring.
His one-word replies seemed weird all of a sudden. He was looking around like a sneaky cat while walking with me. I didn't know why his behavior was so different. For a second, it felt like he was not the man I thought he was in the afternoon. After walking for 5 minutes, we took a left turn, and Damien stopped in front of a dark alley. A man dressed in a white vest and tattered trousers surfaced from the alley and smiled at Damien. Seeing that man, Damien seemed nervous again, and he looked at me. I was confused at the same time, which he seemed to notice. Who is this man?
That's my friend. He's the one throwing the party. His condo is located inside that alley. Come on, let's go.
I don't hear any music coming from the alley. You sure there's a party happening inside this dingy alley?
Of course I am. No, stop talking so much and come with us.
Hearing him yell like that for no reason, I quickly figured out something bad was about to happen. I took a few steps back, saying, "Maybe some other time, Damien. I forgot I have to wake up early tomorrow. I better get going. Okay, good night." Saying this, I turned around to leave when Damien grabbed my shirt, trying to pull me toward him. I didn't realize how strong he was until he pulled my shirt and it ripped off from the back.
Don't let her escape!
Now the other guy screamed, and I understood this was all a malevolent trap. I started running for my life. Turning back, I saw the guy, Damien, or whatever his real name was, chasing me at full speed, and the other guy was running behind him too. My apartment was down the block, and there was no one in the area to ask for help. I couldn't call the cops because I knew if I tripped, they were going to catch me.
Run faster! She's getting away!
Stop! Why are you running away? Just trust me. We're gonna have so much fun, Rosie! Stop, I said!
That witch is not going to stop you, stupid moron! You just ruined the plan!
I could hear them shouting at each other while chasing me. When I reached my block, I turned around one more time and saw Damien panting on the road. He wasn't chasing me anymore. But even though he gave up, the other man didn't. He was still coming at me and was desperate to get his hands on me. I got inside my building and started to rush up the stairs. I could hear the man's heavy footsteps. I grabbed my key from my bag while going up because I didn't want to waste a single second unlocking my apartment door. As soon as I reached my apartment, without panicking or surrendering to my fear, I calmly inserted the key and unlocked the door. The man ran like a mad horse, almost slamming on my door. But before he could get in, I got in and closed it. My breathing was heavily disoriented. Sweat was all over me, and I could feel my heart beating in my throat.
Open the door! I said, open it!
The man kept banging and kicking my door, trying his best to get in, but I knew he couldn't touch me now. I screamed from the other side.
You've been caught on a CCTV camera in the hallway, prick. I'm calling the cops. Just wait and watch.
Suddenly, the banging stopped, and I heard running footsteps fading away. I called the cops and reported these guys, but they were never found. I think they left the area, fearing that they would rot in jail. I carried an electric taser and pepper spray to work for almost 3 months. I just couldn't take the risk after that night. It scares me to death how that guy Damien trapped me in his lies. A cold shiver rushes down my spine whenever I think about that night. No doubt those 2 criminals have done this before, and God knows where their previous victims are. Do you think any of them managed to escape, as I did?
The story you are about to see is based on a boy who got so obsessed with the cartoon show Courage the Cowardly Dog that he ended up doing things which you can't even imagine doing in your nightmares. I was in middle school when I met this boy, Frederick. He came in the middle of the term, which seemed odd to me. Anyways, he was a shy guy and never seemed to interact with anyone. He preferred eating alone in the cafeteria. All the other teenagers stayed away from him too, probably because of his appearance. He had pointy black hair which any normal person would mistake for a wig, thick black eyebrows, and a sharp pointy face. I was taking books from my locker for the next class when I heard laughter in the hallway. I turned around to see Frederick sitting on the floor with his books scattered around and 3 boys bullying him and laughing at him. He kept his head down, didn't protest, didn't talk, just endured the insult the entire time. Suddenly, one of those boys raised his hand to pull Frederick's hair when he grabbed his arm and lifted his face to look at him. He had a huge grin on his face.
Naughty. Let go of my hand!
The boy tried to free his hand from Frederick's grasp, but he couldn't. Surprisingly, he appeared way stronger than he looked, which ultimately shocked everyone standing there. Then he suddenly let go of the boy's hand and started picking up his books. The 3 boys didn't bully him anymore, and left while saying,
You're a freak!
Everyone started to go to their respective classes, but I stood there and watched Frederick putting his books one by one inside his bag. Thinking I should help him, I quickly walked to him and asked,
Do you need any help?
He looked at me with a big surprise. I don't think he expected anyone to approach him. He looked around nervously and then said,
No, I got it. Where are you from? Louisiana. I'm staying here with my uncle. I see. Sorry for what those boys did to you. People here can be real jerks, you know. By the way, I'm Dawson.
Saying this, I gave him my hand to help him stand up. I don't know whether my kind gesture made him happy, but since then, we kind of became friends. I'm saying kind of because Frederick was the weirdest boy I have ever come across in my life. One day after school, he invited me to his uncle's house to hang out for a while. I was a happy-go-lucky person back then, so I agreed without much thought. His uncle worked at a construction site, so he often got home late. When we reached his house, it was empty. Frederick opened the door, taking the key under the mat, and we got inside. He said in a creepy voice,
Would you like to see my room? Yeah, why not?
He took me upstairs. His room was at the end of the hallway. Believe me or not, the moment I entered his room, I felt I had stepped into a different dimension. The entire room was painted black, with huge posters of the creepy villain character, Freaky Fred, from the cartoon Courage the Cowardly Dog, hung on the walls. This guy was literally obsessed with this fictional villain. He pointed to the small wooden cupboard and said,
"That's where I keep my instruments." "What kind of instruments?"
He looked at me, let out a big, creepy grin, and then opened the cupboard door. Trust me, I never expected to see what I saw inside that cupboard. There were probably 10 to 15 types of scissors made of various metals and had unique patterns.
Whoa! Where did you get all these? I made them. So this is your passion? Like making metal tools? No, I want to be a barber. A barber? Yeah, just like him.
Saying this, he pointed to the posters of the cartoon character Freaky Fred and smiled big. His eyes dazzled as he said that. He then asked,
"Do you want to see my current client?"
No matter how odd that sounded, but I still nodded my head yes. He walked to the table in the corner and picked up a cardboard box. He handed the box to me, and as I opened it, I screamed in terror.
Holy Mother of God! What have you done to him, Frederick?
In that box remained a hairless hamster, which looked as if its skin was inside out.
I shaved it using my uncle's trimmer. Oh, Dawson, it was so much fun. If you want, I can shave your head too. Should I? Should I? Please let me. I promise I'll be gentle. I'll shave it so clean that it will reflect in the sunlight.
That's when I heard a door knock downstairs, and without waiting a single second in his room, I rushed to leave the house immediately. A delivery person was standing at the door, and seeing me run away with a pale face, he got confused too. But I didn't stop. As I came out on the road, I could hear Frederick yelling from the porch.
I'll see you at school tomorrow!
I couldn't sleep that entire night. Every time I closed my eyes, I could see Frederick chuckling at me while snapping a huge knife like a psycho. I decided the next day at school, I will avoid him, just like everyone else. I got early to my class the next day and tried my best not to come across Frederick. I was sitting with a bunch of friends eating in the cafeteria when I felt a slight tap on my shoulder. Turning back, I saw it was Frederick. Only this time, he looked like the scariest version of himself. He has colored his hair and eyebrows blonde and had an ear-to-ear smile just like that Freaky Fred. Everyone was staring at him with shock in their eyes, but he didn't care.
Are you avoiding me, my dear friend? No. I just have too much to do today. I'll see you after classes then.
He walked out of the cafeteria and my friends asked me, what was that all about? I told them it was nothing and finished my lunch break. Once school was done for the day, I decided to wait in the bathroom for 10 minutes so Frederick will leave on his own. But suddenly, the bathroom door slammed open and I saw Frederick entering with that blood-curdling grin.
Now, you shouldn't play in the toilet. Why are you talking in a British accent, Frederick? Call me Fred, because Frederick is dead. I killed him last night and took over his body. Look, man, you're scaring the hell out of me. I nevermore was naughty. Well, maybe not never. What do you want? Your hair. It reminds me of the first time I knew just how I felt about hair.
Saying this, he took out a trimmer from his back pocket and turned it on. The mechanic rumble of the trimmer along with his demonic grin started to approach me like a nightmare. What he did next, I wasn't ready for that. He jumped on me with the trimmer, aiming for my head, but I somehow pushed him away and he fell hard on the floor. I then ran out screaming for help. I bumped into the school janitor and told him everything. The janitor ran to the bathroom, but by the time he got in, Frederick was gone. My parents reported to the cops after I told them about him. His uncle was called too, but he said Frederick never came home. I never saw him after that incident, but every Christmas, I get a holiday card saying,
Merry Christmas, my dear friend. With love, Fred.
In the above footage, you can see a teacher yelling and insulting a little girl in front of an entire class. The following story is loosely based on this horrifying footage and will be presented as a dramatized animated version. Being a parent is not easy, and I understood that when I became a mother. I wanted to protect my daughter in every way because I remember that one event of my life which left a forever cursed mark in my memory. I was 10 years old. Both of my parents were doctors, so they enrolled me in a boarding school which had a very strict schedule. Even though other students were as miserable as me, I was scared to death by this one particular teacher. His name was Mr. Perrin, and he was a crazy guy. He used to teach our English classes, but was terrible at it. He yelled more than he taught us. I hated him unlike anything. I wanted to run away from that school, but I couldn't. Every day, Mr. Perrin would enter the class, saying his usual catchphrase,
"Let's start, idiots!"
We were poor kids who remained quiet and succumbed to his insults every day. But one day, things became too intense. I was having difficulty understanding a lesson when Mr. Perrin called me to the blackboard.
Where is your mind, Susie? This is a very easy thing. How can you not understand?
I'm sorry, but
Is your brain stuffed with garbage?
I'm trying hard, but you scream a lot.
Oh, now it's my fault that you're dumb. If that's anyone's fault, Susie, it's your parents. Surely they must be stupid too.
While yelling, he poked my head so hard with his finger that I almost got a dent in my skull. It was practically a violation of teaching conduct, but as I said, I was staying in a boarding school, and I was too scared to think it through. Mr. Perrin pointed at the classroom door and yelled one more time.
Get out of my class, you idiot!
I left the class in tears. Saturday was 2 days later, so no way I could see my parents and tell them about this scary teacher. After school hours, I went back to the hostel and was sitting alone when my only friend Tamara came to me. She sat beside me and said,
Don't be sad, Susie. Mr. Perrin is evil. He insulted my parents today. I'll tell Mommy and Daddy to teach him a lesson. You don't have to wait that long. We can do this too.
What? How?
Come with me.
That night, my friend Tamara and I decided to pull a prank on him. Mr. Perrin lived in the teacher's quarters right behind our hostel. He was a bulky, overweight person and sweated a lot, so he kept his room window open the entire night for air. We quietly sneaked to his window and peeked into his room. He was preparing himself to take a bath.
Ew, look at his hairy body.
Tamara said in disgust, seeing Mr. Perrin changed into a towel. His boxers were on the bed. As soon as he went inside the bathroom, we took out Tilly from a glass jar and placed it on Mr. Perrin's boxers with the help of a stick. Tilly was Tamara's giant fire ant, whom she had found in the garden and decided to keep as a pet. As soon as we were done, we quickly dodged under the window and waited. The bathroom door opened, and we heard Mr. Perrin whistling, followed by footsteps. And then a few minutes of silence reigned. Tamara and I ran away right away. The next morning, we heard Mr. Perrin was rushed to the hospital for having been bitten by some insect in his private parts. We laughed so hard that day in class, but our laughter didn't last very long. The next day, Mr. Perrin was back. His walk was kind of funny because of the injury, but his face was 10 times scarier. His bloodshot eyes were bulging out in anger. Grinding his yellow teeth, he yelled,
I know it wasn't an accident, and I know someone from this class sneaked into my room window last night. I heard running footsteps when the ant bit me. The day I find out who it was, I will teach them a lesson they will never forget.
Tamara and I exchanged a fearful look, and I saw a creepy grin appear on Mr. Perrin's face. Surprisingly, he didn't yell at us the entire class. We went out for recess. There was a big jungle gym located at the end of the playground. I was sitting under it, regretting that prank, when I heard footsteps at some distance. I looked up, and what I saw chilled my bones. Mr. Perrin was standing right in front of me with a psycho smile. He stooped down to my level, brought his face extremely close to mine, and said in a scary voice,
It was you, Susie, wasn't it?
What? What are you?
Do you think I am stupid like your parents?
Saying this, he grabbed me by the shoulders and started shaking me violently while laughing and screaming like a deranged lunatic.
Do you know what I'll do to you? I'm gonna take off all your clothes and feed you to a heap of fire ants. You will scream louder than me, and I will enjoy your cries for help. I will soothe my ears to that joyful music. I will make you pay.
Help! Help me!
I was too small to free myself from his grasp. Suddenly, all the other kids on the ground started screaming as well, seeing Mr. Perrin's outburst. The teachers came and separated him from me after applying great force. I must have fainted during that psychotic episode because I don't remember a thing except for Mr. Perrin's scary face. My parents reported him and he was fired from the school. I was also sent to stay with my grandparents. It felt bad to leave Tamara there, but I needed more attention and care after undergoing such trauma. My grandparents took me in with a lot of love and care. I don't know where Mr. Perrin is now, but I hope I never meet such a terrible teacher ever again. It was a warm summer afternoon. I had just gotten out of bed after a late-night project for one of my clients. I decided to rest that day by providing myself with some extra care, like a delicious breakfast followed by Netflix binge-watching and junk food all day. Basically, lying in bed and doing nothing. So, I was making scrambled eggs in my kitchen when my phone rang. It was a call for the Amazon delivery, which I was also expecting that day. I picked up, saying, "Hello?"
Are you home? Because I'll be delivering your package soon.
Yes, I'm home.
You weren't last time, and your package got stolen, and you complained about me. I faced a lot of trouble because of that.
I remembered last month. I wasn't home, and the same Amazon delivery guy called me about a package. Even though he insisted on delivering it the next day, I told him to leave it on my porch. Now, I live on the outskirts, so I didn't see it coming, and someone stole my package. It was a vintage vase and cost me a lot of money. Recalling that this was the same guy, I felt a little badly for him because, after all, it wasn't his fault. I replied with an awkward voice, "Oh, that was you. I'm sorry, but I'm home now. You won't have any trouble this time."
Fine, stay home. Don't go anywhere. I'll be there soon.
He disconnected the phone. His rude voice hinted that he was still sour from the last experience. Thinking it would be better to keep an eye on the doorbell cam until he arrived, I sat down on the couch with my breakfast. The camera screen installed next to my main door showed the sunny day and the empty porch with Halloween decorations still hanging there. I was too lazy to clean that up. The pumpkin heads were rolling on the stairs. The man didn't take much time to arrive. I saw his big van pulling in my driveway. A bony, average-height man wearing a blue t-shirt and jeans with a baseball cap got down from it. He opened the van's back door and carefully grabbed 3 boxes that were to be delivered to me. I got up and walked to the main door when I saw the man coming to my doorstep, holding those boxes. He didn't notice the pumpkins lying on the stairs and accidentally slipped, taking one wrong step. Even though it wasn't funny, I couldn't contain my laughter. I was close to the main door, so the man heard me laughing at him. He got up in full anger and started kicking those pumpkins. Finally realizing how wrong it was for me to laugh at someone's misery, I opened the door, saying, Hey, stop that. I'm sorry, okay? I didn't mean to laugh.
Halloween is long gone. Did you do this intentionally so I would fall?
Stop taking everything so seriously. I have better things to do than giving you so much attention.
Sign here.
He raised the pad toward me with an angry face. I signed my name and gave him back his pad. As I bent down to lift the package, he asked me in a very creepy tone,
Do you want to die?
I straightened up and made eye contact with him. His angry face had turned into an ear-to-ear smile. Excuse me?
Do you, want to die?
Without giving any response, I quickly got into the house and closed the door in his face. Peeking through the peephole, I saw him casually place his pad on the ground next to himself on my porch. He took off his hat and placed it on the ground upon his pad calmly. My breath began to quicken. I locked the door. As he heard the click, he shook his shoulders and his head in a very scary way, like something was about to snap inside him. He laughed and said,
You want to make it hard, don't you? Don't you, you freaking witch?
He adjusted his stance, raised his foot, and I flinched as he kicked the door. His kick vibrated through the door, and I felt as if I had just received a sneak preview of what was to come. Before I could move, he kicked the door again. I had no idea he could be that strong, but with the third kick, my door lock broke, and I fell to the floor, screaming. He walked in, chuckled to himself, and looked at me.
Well, that was easier than I thought it would be.
Suddenly, my body decided it would be a good idea to run. I turned and started running to the kitchen. He yelled behind me.
All this futile effort. You know how it will end. You just know it.
Reaching the kitchen, I grabbed the hot pan that I had just used to scramble my eggs. Now, the man was walking into my kitchen, looking at me like a predator.
A frying pan? Come on. I thought you were a smart chick.
Stay back! Just stay the frack back! I yelled at him. He stopped and flinched, but resumed his journey toward me.
You got me there.
He said, chuckling to himself. I began backpedaling. I'm warning you.
No, you're not. If you were warning me, you would have held your ground. You don't even know how to use that thing, do you?
I will bash your brains out if you take one step closer to me.
Really? Do you know what I'm going to do to you? The first chance. The very first chance I get. I'll sew your lips together so you can never laugh at someone's pain. I will give you more pain than you can imagine. Your brains will leak out your ears and your bowels out of your mouth. I will cause that to happen without leaving a mark, and every cop here will swear you died of natural causes.
I was horrified to hear his words. I braced myself, thinking any minute now I am probably going to die at the hands of this psycho Amazon delivery guy. He then jumped on me, and gathering all my courage, I moved the pan, aiming at his face. The metal frying pan hit him harder than I expected. His teeth fell out, and he passed out on my kitchen floor right away. Once I was sure that he had fainted from the sudden blow, I went upstairs, grabbed my cell phone, and called the cops. I watched him with a knife until the cops arrived. Luckily, he didn't wake up, and the paramedics had to carry him out. I never tried to find out what happened to him after he was arrested, but I moved to a new place to avoid any kind of interaction with that creep. It's been 2 years since this terrifying encounter happened to me, and I still get nightmares about that guy. I see him breaking down my door at night with a knife in his hand and screaming.
This time I will get my revenge, you stupid witch!
My sister is a huge fan of Justin Bieber, so much so that her love for him once reached its highest toxic level. Every Saturday night, we used to go to the mall and hang out. I was sitting in my room when my sister Shirley came rushing in.
Molly, we have to go to the mall.
Today? Why? It's Monday.
Trevor called me. He said he saw Justin and Haley at the arcade.
Really?
Come on, hurry up. You have to take me there now.
I could see her face turning red in excitement. I quickly got dressed and we hopped in the car. When we reached the mall, we expected it to be filled with fans, but it seemed like very few people knew about Justin being there. Shirley rushed to the game zone on the second floor, and I followed her. Her friend Trevor was standing outside the zone, waiting eagerly for her. As soon as he saw her, he smiled big.
What took you so long? They're inside. Let's go.
We 3 walked in and saw a group of 6 or 7 people watching something in the corner. Pushing them aside, Shirley moved ahead and we saw Justin Bieber and Haley playing the game side by side. I understood they were competing against each other, and everyone had gathered here to see who would win.
I bet you can't beat me,
Haley said in a joyful voice. Even though she said it in a kiddish way, I could see Justin being too into the game. His face was turning harsh as he tried so hard to get the highest score. Shirley was standing beside me. She seemed all pumped up too and said,
After he wins, I'm gonna ask him for a selfie.
You're confident he'll win?
Of course, he is the best. Haley will never defeat him.
What if she does?
Don't be stupid, Trevor. There's no comparison to JB. Now shut up and let him concentrate.
As if he cares about our support.
We kept watching them going hard on each other, and the game was right at the end. The scores flashed, and to all of our surprise, Justin lost the challenge. As soon as he lost, his demeanor changed drastically. He began screaming like a defeated kid.
No! This can't be!
I won! I won!
Come on! You won because I wasn't even trying so hard, okay?
That is not true. Accept it. Accept that I beat you.
Justin and Haley started fighting amongst themselves when a girl standing beside Shirley said to her friend,
Told you dumb Justin would lose. I don't understand why his fans even like him.
Shirley's face turned red in anger as she heard the girl. She suddenly turned toward her and said,
What did you say?
What?
What did you call Justin?
Exactly what he is. Dumb.
Ah! How dare you insult him in front of me? I will choke you, you witch!
Saying this, she jumped on that girl and grabbed her hair. Both of them fell to the floor and began the catfight. On the other hand, Justin and Haley immediately left the mall, seeing this sudden chaos. But my sister was completely out of her mind. She scratched the poor girl's face with her sharp fingernails and kept screaming.
Justin is great! He is not dumb! You're dumb! How dare you insult him!
Leave me alone, you crazy psycho! Only a crazy girl like you can be a fan of that stupid Justin Bieber.
You won't leave this place alive today!
Trevor and I jumped in and tried our best to separate them from each other. As I grabbed Shirley to pull away from her, she bit me in the arm after yelling,
Don't try to stop me! I'm not letting this witch go! She needs to learn! Ugh! Get this mad woman off me!
Their fight was becoming too intense. None of us could separate Shirley from that girl. At one point, she grabbed the girl's ear so hard that her ear piercing came out, cutting her earlobe. She started crying, and the mall security finally intervened. After a huge ruckus, the security guards finally managed to separate them. The girl was taken to the hospital, and Shirley was arrested by the cops. I called Dad and told him to come to the police station. Trevor and I told the cops what happened. We tried to convince them to let Shirley go, but they had proof. Also, the girl's family filed a report against Shirley. No way they were letting her leave without some punishment. When Dad came, the girl's mom gave him a death stare and said, "Once you get her out of this place, make sure you take her to a psychiatrist. She is crazy." Shirley was sitting right beside me, wearing handcuffs. She looked at the girl's mother and widened her eyes in anger. I whispered to her, "Please, Shirley, don't make this any more difficult. Dad is here, and we're gonna get you out, okay? But you have to keep quiet." I could hear Shirley breathing heavily, but thank God she didn't let the matter escalate further at that moment. Dad and I apologized to the girl's parents and bailed Shirley out. We were walking toward the car when we again came across the girl's parents. They were getting in their car as well. Shirley called out to them, saying,
Excuse me.
The girl's mother turned back and looked at Shirley with a pissed-off face. I will never forget what Shirley said to her that night. Her terrifying words still ring in my ear like a nightmare. A huge grin appeared on her face, and she said in a spine-chilling but calm voice,
Because of your daughter, I failed to take a selfie with Justin today. When you see her at the hospital tonight, do tell her that next time I will chop her ears off. I will chop them so clean that she will never be able to hear music, let alone criticize a talented singer like Justin Bieber. Tell her I will see her again.
Okay, that's enough, Shirley. Get in the car!
"I'm sorry. My sister is not in her right mind right now. Please forgive her." Dad got into the driver's seat, and I hopped in with Shirley. She hung her head out of the window, looked at the girl's parents one last time, and let out a psychotic laugh. The girl's parents stood there, frozen in fear and shocked by my sister's behavior. Shirley is currently undergoing treatment. We did take her to a psychiatrist. I think she's getting better, but you never know. Toxic fans are everywhere these days.
My score? Husband's score.
Baby, I wasn't trying!
I beat you, accept it!
In this story, we'll see a couple who just moved into this house. What they didn't know before moving in is that they were going to be harassed by a strange neighbor who films their every move. The story you are about to see is loosely based on the footage. Being a YouTuber, I'm used to being filmed. At first, I was a little scared. The camera made me uncomfortable. As my community got bigger and bigger, I felt more and more comfortable being filmed. I thought I was destined to be a public person. That all changed since that one terrifying week. The week someone else filmed me, and I didn't feel so comfortable anymore. It all started during a warm summer night. I was in the upstairs bedroom of my house while my wife was reading a book in the dining room. I was just finishing setting up the room, but the light coming from my neighbor's yard was shining against the window and blinding me.
Is he looking for something?
I peeked through the window to see what was going on and was shocked by the surprise. That light was not a flashlight. It was a camera. To make it even worse, the camera was filming directly in the dining room of my house, where my wife was. I kept quiet for a few seconds to see if it was a misunderstanding. But no, the man was getting closer and closer with his camera. I opened the window furious and shouted at him.
Dude, what's your problem? Oh, hell no.
I wasn't going to allow this. I ran to his house and pounded on the door furiously, but no one answered.
I know you're in there. Open the door now.
Finding no answer, I decided to go back to my house.
Let me guess. He didn't open the door?
He didn't even answer me.
What a weirdo.
I've never seen him before. Do you know anything about him?
Next to nothing. The whole neighborhood says he lives alone with his mother. He rarely leaves the house and he has everything delivered.
And then, how does he bring food to the table?
It's a mystery. They say he may have inherited some money, or that he works with computers. Whatever. I just hope that after this he doesn't bother me again.
Everything was back to normal. Until one day, I received a WhatsApp message. The message was from an unknown number. I thought it was a fan, but his profile picture was that of the neighbor. The man was casually hugging his mother, looking at the camera with a shy smile. Nervous about what I might find, I opened the video and covered my mouth so as not to scare my wife. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. The video was of our own house, but from inside. Whoever was filming us came into our room where we were both sleeping. The man approached us and filmed both our faces, zooming in on mine. Was this a threat? My wife was not there, so I sent a voice message to my wife telling her what was going on, and furious, I went straight to the neighbor's house. When I got there, I banged on the door furiously, and before I could start yelling, the door opened. On the other side was the stalker's mother.
How are you, boy? Do you need anything?
I need to talk to your son.
Oh, Charlie is in his room. Did something happen?
Your son is stalking me and my wife.
No. It must be a mistake. Little Charlie would never do that.
Little Charlie? The man must have been in his 50s.
Come on, let's go to his room together. I'm sure it was all a misunderstanding.
We both walked to his room. I couldn't help but feel sorry for this lady. Her heart was about to break. She was convinced that her son was innocent. All the way she talked to me with a big smile, hoping that everything could be fixed. The lady opened her son's door, and even though he was there, sitting on the floor, my attention went elsewhere. The whole room was full of pictures of me and my wife stuck to the wall. They were everywhere. How long had he been harassing us? How did the mother not notice? The answer came immediately.
Son, what have I told you about harassing people without telling them?
That it's wrong, Mom.
Something was wrong here. The stalker was trembling with fear, but he wasn't looking at me. He was looking at his mother.
Do you have something to say to the man? Say it.
I'm in love with you.
All right, now come closer and give him a kiss.
What?
Please, Mom, I don't want to kiss the man.
Do what I told you, you insolent scumbag!
I'm sorry, Mom. Sir, I love you.
Before I could answer her, the mother grabbed Pear angrily.
That's an apology? Say it with more emotion.
Mom, I love you, not him. I don't even want to take the pictures of him.
You have to love him because I want you to. This is all your fault. If you had taught me how to use the cell phone, I wouldn't have sent him that video. Now he hates me because of you.
You sent me the video?
I'm sorry, young man. I just wanted to watch it and touch myself. I feel very lonely, and my son can't reach me anymore.
No, don't say that, Mom.
That doesn't mean that I don't love you, dear. Come, give Mom a kiss. Charlie, we discussed him. He broke Mom's heart. Aren't you gonna do anything?
I don't want to kill him, Mom.
Don't you love me? Do it, or I won't kiss you anymore.
Yes, Mom.
His gaze turned to me. He no longer looked like a scared or sad man. His eyes were full of hate and decision. There was no fear at all. He had done this before.
Hey, man, I'll leave. I won't bother you anymore. Hey, I'm sorry.
He wants to go. Kill him.
With that said, the man started to chase me around the house. I was aware that maybe I could defend myself, but this man was going to kill me, and I was not willing to go that far. I quickly ran in the direction of the exit door, and on the way, the man grabbed a knife from the kitchen and threw it at my back. The throw was perfect, but the knife didn't go through me. It hit me on the door side. I got in the car and sped off on my way to my wife's work, and when I got there, I told her everything. We notified the police, but all to no avail. There was no way to prove what happened, other than a video of the man taking pictures. All the rest of the evidence, gone. They quickly deleted the cell phone video and removed the photos from the man's room. My wife and I decided to stop paying rent and move to her sister's house, who welcomed us with open arms. I never heard from that family again. I just hope that the next family I go to will not fall victim to that psycho nanny and her son.
A girl was looking for love on a dating show in the year 1978. After choosing between 3 bachelors, the girl appeared to have met the man of her dreams. Little did she know that man was Rodney Alcala, a dangerous serial killer looking for his next victim. Here is the animated version of the actual story. The mind of the psychopath is really very complex. These people usually appear sympathetic, elegant, and understanding. These people do not feel empathy. They do not feel love. It's all a facade. This is not easy to identify, so their victims are manipulated by their charms, and not all of them survive to tell the tale. Today, there are tools to identify these people, but the truth is that in 1978, it was not even believed that psychopaths were real. Unbeknownst to me, I had a date with a psychopath that year, but not just any psychopath. My date was with Rodney Alcala, one of the most famous serial killers in history. It all started at a famous dating show. Everyone went there to become famous or for the possibility of appearing on television, but that was not my case. I was young and innocent, and I really thought it was very romantic to meet the love of my life on something as much of a vanity as a reality show. In the game, I had to choose between 3 men, all interested in dating me. Although I had heard the 3 voices of my suitors, only one caught my attention. That man was Rodney Alcala, who at the time I only knew as Bachelor Number 1. Although I didn't see his face, the man was charismatic, funny, and seductive. When the show ended and I was asked which contestant I wanted to date, the answer was very clear. I chose the psycho. We saw each other's faces for the first time, and he gave me a hug. When we both left the show, we won the strangest prizes from the host: a tennis lesson with an instructor and a day at an amusement park. It wasn't my ideal date, but who knows? It might be fun.
I must say you made a great decision, but we both know it was the only one.
What can I say? Seeing you, I knew I made the right choice. We spent the trip talking about our lives and flirting. We were both very talkative and had a lot of chemistry. It was natural that things flowed so well. What I didn't know was that this was all a facade that would quickly fade away when I asked a question he didn't like. At that moment, we were playing tennis, and we decided to take a break and chat while the instructor had to take a call. So, do you mind if I ask what the other contestants were like?
Actually, yes, I do mind.
At first, I thought it was a joke, but his smile wiped off his face. My comment didn't please him. Hey, sorry, I was just...
How would you feel if I made you compete with 2 other women, and a few minutes after I chose you, I told you about them?
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to.
It's enough that I've lowered myself to compete for another person. But while you're with me, I don't want you to talk to me about any other man. Got it?
Yes, I'm sorry. I remember feeling very bad at that moment. I know it sounds crazy, but everything he told me had a strange logic, and for some reason, I believed him. We went back to play tennis again, but something had changed. The atmosphere felt very strange. Rodney was no longer there with his characteristic smile that he had all the way, and the balls he was throwing at me were no longer friendly. Every time he had to serve or return a shot to me, the balls were going with great power toward my body. He would look at the coach and tell that he didn't calculate his strength, but I could see the anger in his eyes every time he served. I knew he was lying. We each showered in our own locker room. As I bathed, I thought about how badly I had behaved with Rodney. Today, it seems ridiculous, but in 1978, things were very different. There were a lot of things that would never happen today. I was finishing my shower when I heard a noise coming from the back of the locker room. I thought it was another girl getting ready to play, but the fact that it was the only noise I heard seemed strange. I finished showering and went out with a towel to change. I was curious if that noise was my imagination or if there was a girl, but I definitely wasn't expecting what I saw. Rodney was sitting in his boxers, freshly showered and waiting for me.
What the fuck? What are you doing here?
I was waiting for my girl while she was taking a bath. Is there a problem?
Yeah, we don't even know each other. You can't just show up out of nowhere while I'm changing. Were you spying on me?
I was just checking the goods.
Didn't you just hear me?
His smile was erased in an instant. He came up to me and put me against the wall, with one hand against the wall beside my head.
Maybe I don't care what you have to say.
Hey, you're scaring me.
Good. You should be a little scared. You're talking way too much. Now, say you're sorry.
Sorry.
I forgive you. Now get ready to go to the amusement park. Let's get this out of the way before we go to my house for the night. I'll show you how I forgive you by giving you the best night of your life. Hey, are you crying? Is this a fucking joke? You should be grateful that I put up with all your hysterics. And you have the luxury of crying? What have I done to deserve that? You are so selfish. If you make a fuss, I'm gonna put you in your place, understand? No one will defend you. People hate people like you. Do you understand?
Yes, I understand.
Fix that face. I'll wait for you outside.
And without further ado, Rodney left. I could hear him standing impatiently at the door, waiting for me. The only reason he left was probably that he was afraid someone else would come in. Otherwise, I don't know what he would have done to me. I kept fixing my face to continue with the date, terrified. At that moment, I thought a lot. Was this man really making me think this was my fault? Was my life in danger and I didn't even realize it? With a lot of doubts, I got brave. I left the faucet on and escaped out the window, running as far as I could without direction. Eventually, Rodney stuck in my mind as a bad date. I admit that part of me thought I was too extreme, that maybe he was a nice person, but he was nervous, or maybe I had done something wrong. Sometime later, watching the news, I realized how lucky I was to escape that afternoon. A reporter was announcing that Rodney Alcala had been imprisoned for the murder of several women. He had been prosecuted for the murder of 7 women, but was suspected of having killed over 100. More than 40 years later, my children show me YouTube videos of me, young and innocent, being tricked and manipulated by a serial killer. Everyone tells me I dodged a bullet by running away, but they're wrong. The bullet hit me right in the heart. It took me a long time to stop crying at night, thinking about how that day could have ended, how I doubted myself and believed the lies of a monster. Today, things have changed, but psychopaths are not extinct. If you're ever in a situation like this, never doubt yourself, and remember, you are not to blame. In the above footage, you can see a teacher snapping in front of his students over a little misunderstanding. The teacher gets so angry that he starts damaging the school property while screaming like crazy. The following animation is loosely based on this scary footage.
I was in high school when this incident happened. We had a chemistry teacher who suddenly left the job, and a new substitute teacher came in his place. On the day of our first class, everyone was sitting in the classroom, waiting for the new teacher to arrive. I was scribbling in my notebook when I overheard a conversation between my two classmates sitting right beside me.
Really? Is it true? Yeah, man. I heard the janitor talk to the cafeteria cook yesterday about Mr. Nevis's sudden transfer. But I heard he quit. No, you heard it wrong. He was made to quit, so the principal's friend can get the job. I heard he's a very freaky-looking dude. Why? What does he look like? The janitor said that he looks like a mad scientist. He was sent to the mental institution for treatment, but now he's back. I don't think some lunatic would be allowed to teach us. After all, it's about the students' safety. No one gives a damn about the students. The mad scientist guy will be here any moment. You can then judge on your own. I just said what I heard yesterday.
Rumors are part of high school, so at first, I ignored whatever they discussed. I thought he would be like any other boring teacher, but time proved me wrong. The class was becoming chaotic as the students got impatient. Some started throwing paper balls at each other, while the couples started making out in the corner. Everyone was highly distracted when suddenly, the classroom door slammed open like someone kicked it from the other side, and a crazy-looking man entered the classroom. He had a messed up, electrocuted hairstyle with a very freaky-looking nose. The man had a bunch of books in his hand and slammed them on top of the teacher's desk and then screamed in a high-pitched voice.
I won't tolerate any kind of nonsense in my class, you two. Stop shoving each other's tongues in your mouths and take your seat.
His appearance was intimidating, no doubt. All the students went quiet immediately and took their seats. He then grinned, really huge, and slowly scanned the classroom with his vulture eyes.
I will teach in my own unique way, so anyone who has a problem with that, get out of my class right now!
Again, no one replied and just sat shocked and terrified. He then picked up a chalk and wrote his name on the board. He slowly turned back at us and said,
No sir, no mister, my name is Dr. Vink, and all you will call me that, understood?
None of us knew what to say, so we remained quiet, and he screamed again.
Answer me, you morons!
We said yes, being all frightened. Dr. Vink indeed had a very weird way of teaching. In the first class, he made us rip our chemistry book pages and throw them in the class dustbin. Our school football team captain, Jack, tried to protest, but Dr. Vink shut him up, saying,
Are you one of those popular kids who's planning to get a scholarship based on a stupid game? Excuse me? I am here to teach you, so the doors are open and the football ground is outside. You are most welcome to leave any minute.
After that, Jack sat down and never spoke a word again. Everyone knew how important the chemistry scores are to land a good scholarship, so we all did exactly what Dr. Vink told us to. One thing that always struck odd to me is that he never talked to the other teachers in our school. I never saw him eat in the cafeteria either. Once he was done with our class, he went straight to the chemistry lab and spent the entire day till school was over. He never took us to the lab after joining us as our chemistry teacher. And whenever any student asked him about that, he always said,
The lab is under maintenance. I am running my own experiments there. I will take you in once I am done.
No student ever complained about this because they knew Dr. Vink will make their life miserable if he finds out we ratted him out. And he will find out. Apart from his craziness, he was a good teacher. The way he taught chemistry actually started making sense to me. Even the stupidest students always paid attention in his class. The overall grades started to go high, so the parents and school authorities stood out of his way too. But sometimes I felt he gave good grades just to keep himself out of trouble. He kept everyone happy by providing this delusion that our school chemistry standards had gotten higher since he joined. One day, he took a surprise test and everyone passed. My friend Kyle and I were discussing our papers when I noticed I had made 2 terrible mistakes, but Dr. Vink still gave me an A. Thinking he might have overlooked it, I went to him with my paper and said,
Sir? Dr. Vink! Yes, I'm sorry, Dr. Vink. I've made mistakes here, so the grade should be B+, not an A. I think you overlooked...
My. Aren't you the flag bearer of truth? What, you don't want good grades?
No, it's not that. I just want to know if I'm actually getting good at chemistry, and wrong grades can cloud my judgment.
What do you want to be after you finish high school?
I was thinking of applying for a scholarship at NYU. I want to study history.
There, you have your answer.
Sorry, I don't understand.
You want to study history, so shut your damn mouth and go to your seat. It doesn't matter if you get an A, a B, or a C in chemistry, you moron!
I felt very insulted and couldn't help but answer him back.
It does matter, Dr. Vink. And you are the most pathetic teacher I have ever seen in my life. You are basically lying instead of preparing us for the future. You're desperate to stay in this school. Maybe because you know what a big failure you are in real life.
The entire class got silent and stared at us. Dr. Vink's face started to turn red in anger. He suddenly got up from his chair and grabbed the laptop on his desk and started slamming it on the table while screaming like a lunatic.
How dare you talk to me like that? How dare you? You incompetent, moronic fool!
The laptop shattered into pieces. He started kicking and destroying everything he could find in that classroom. Being freaked out by his behavior, all the students ran outside screaming for help. The principal and other teachers arrived, but none of them could even get one step close to our mad chemistry teacher. He just snapped and kept demolishing the school property. Having no other option left, the school authorities called the cops. Even when the cops were dragging Dr. Vink out of the classroom, he was kicking in the air, spitting everywhere, and threatening to kill us all.
I will be back, morons! They can't keep me behind bars forever! And next time, I'll burn this school down to the ground! I will dance over your ashes! My name is Dr. Vink, and I will have my revenge!
The principal was bashed by the student body and the parents for hiring someone with such a traumatizing mental state. What scared our town was when the cops searched our chemistry lab, they found explosives and highly dangerous chemicals made by Dr. Vink. He actually wanted to blow this place up. If I hadn't confronted him that day, then probably this mad scientist would have been dancing on our ashes after burning the school down to the ground. In this real case, a hiker discovers posters of a missing person in a forest. Terrified, he films everything he can, but his story doesn't end there. In this dramatization, we will see how a creepy discovery quickly turns into the worst day of his life. The life of a hiker is not easy. We consider ourselves adventurers, people who want to live life to the limit. We expose ourselves to the wilderness, to wildlife, to the unknown. I have known many colleagues who have run great dangers for different reasons. But no matter how crazy the stories they tell me, none of them experienced what I went through that day. I didn't encounter any wild animals, suffer a dangerous fall, or get lost in the forest. That day, my life was in the hands of another man. That forest was not unlike any other I had ever been in. There were few animals, and I had been that way before. That day, I felt a little more confident than usual. So when I started to cross the forest, I opened up a little more from the route I had taken the previous time. I knew I would remember the trail. I am a very experienced hiker and I know my way in the woods. As I went on, I saw something in the distance that caught my attention. The trees ahead of me had something white in the center. Whether it was my dangerous spirit or a complete lack of common sense, I approached to investigate. From a distance, I could imagine that what was on the trunks of the trees were papers. What I could not imagine was their nature. I took out my camera and began to film my discovery, not knowing what I was about to find. I grabbed one of the papers and, incredulous, I read it while I felt my body begin to tremble with fear. These were not just papers. They were missing person posters.
What? What is this?
I continued filming the whole area and discovered that just behind the trees was a tent. Suddenly, my camera ran out of battery and turned off.
Okay, well, that's the signal that I need to get out of here right now.
No, I think this is the perfect time for you to stay.
As I turned around, I fell to the ground in shock. A man was standing behind me. The person was not armed. He didn't even have a knife, but something in his look didn't let me react. The man was almost 2.5 meters tall. His body was long, lithe, and intimidating. His long, dirty fingernails moved along with his fingers, waiting for me to make a move to grab me.
You seem to be a very curious boy. Will you accompany me to my camp?
Sir, please, let me go. I swear you'll never see me again.
Oh, calm down. I'm not even armed. I just want to talk.
More than leaving me alone, this last one made me even more afraid. This person was very confident. I, on the other hand, was terrified. Resting was not an option. Not only did I not know how to fight, but my body was frozen with fear. It was as if I were a mouse being stalked by a bloodthirsty tiger, and he knew it. Without saying anything to him, I listened to him and walked ahead of him toward his camp.
Don't be afraid of me, kid. I'm not a monster. I just suffer from gigantism. You know I won't do anything to you, right?
Of course. I believe you.
We both knew the other was lying. Only with his frantic look and his huge smile revealing his few remaining teeth, I could tell that this man was ready to kill me.
All right. Give me your cell phone and your wallet.
Without showing the slightest intention of fighting, I gave him everything.
I have an idea. Frank, have you ever played Truth or Dare?
Yes.
Well, you know, I was born in Argentina. In my country, we call it truth or consequence. Today, we'll play that. But we can only choose truth. If the bottle points 3 times at me, I'll let you escape. If you lie to me, or if the bottle points 3 times at you, there will be consequences. You can start.
Nervous but obedient, I listened to him and spun the bottle. It was pointed at him.
Ask.
You caused those people to disappear?
Every one of them. It's my turn. Today is your lucky day. Ask.
Are they buried here?
I said with a little more relief, with a tiny hope that he will let me go if the bottle hits him one more time.
How curious you are. No, they are not. If you lose, I'll show you where I buried them. What were you going to do with what you filmed on that camera?
Don't lie. I was going to upload it to the internet.
Your turn.
I didn't even try to control the spinning. I knew that cheating would cost me my life. But when the bottle stopped on me again, I regretted not having done it.
Maybe you're not so lucky. Let me ask you a question. These are the pictures of your mom and sister, right?
With a mischievous smile, he showed me my own cell phone.
Please, don't.
I moved away from the bottle and started crying at his feet.
I beg you, don't hurt them.
If you die, who should I kill? Your mom or your sister?
No! No!
Choose, or I'll kill you now.
Just kill me. But don't do this to me. I can't answer that.
Choose, or I'll kill both.
My mom!
Can't believe you actually chose.
It's what she would want.
So, if you lose,
I'll grant her wish. Time to see what luck has in store for you, boy.
As the bottle kept spinning, I closed my eyes. I couldn't see the result. At the psychopath's laughter, I summoned all my energy to open my eyes, and to my surprise, the bottle had been left on his side.
Will you let me go? On one condition. What? Use your question. Ask me what would have happened if the bottle had fallen on your side.
His face had changed. The smile had faded, and his eyes denoted a huge contempt and cruelty towards me.
What? What would have happened? I would have jumped immediately to where you are. I would have torn off your clothes and dug my dirty fingernails right into your abdomen. Then I would have cut a hole in your belly with just my hands, and I would have used my few remaining teeth to feast on your organs. But you won. You can leave.
Still terrified, I stood up and started walking. A huge shadow rose behind me and tapped my shoulder.
By the way, I'll keep your wallet and cell phone. I want you to upload your video to the internet. You're welcome to come whenever you want. But if I see a cop here, everything I told you I was going to do to you, I'll do to your sister instead. Do you understand? Yes.
As soon as I said this, the shadow disappeared. I didn't try to check if it was behind me. I just walked, crying, until I reached the road. A few days later, I kept my word and uploaded the video. After that, I sold all my belongings, and with my sister and mother, we left the country. I never told anyone about this, and from that day on, I am still a hiker, but I always go out armed and in big groups. It has been 10 years since that fateful day. The day I lost what little I had left. I could say it was the last day of my life. That day was the 3rd anniversary of the death of my wife and her son, who, despite being from her previous relationship, I considered my son. Both died in a car accident. One of those accidents that one could avoid. One of those that happen when you fall asleep on the road for just a second, and your life changes forever. 3 years later, I was a simple Amazon delivery man. I spent that day working. When I finished all my trips a little early, I decided to take my personal car and work a little more during the night. I wanted to do whatever it was that could distract me and keep me from thinking about being alone. My bosses understood me. They allowed me to make deliveries a little later and even afforded me to use the Amazon van, but I declined. During the night, I braked my car to see where I had to deliver the next package until I looked up and a man was in front of my car. His eyes were huge, full of veins and wide open like lanterns. I could swear they were shaking on their own, like in a horror story. The rest of his body was normal. Nothing about him stood out. He looked well-dressed but disheveled.
Hey, do you need something?
From his side, there was no response. He just stood there looking at me and blocking my way.
Dude, this is not the right day to be that guy. Please move, now.
Receiving no response, I tried to move the car, but the man moved beside him, always standing in front of my windshield, staring at me in the eyes indifferently but obsessively.
Seriously, I'm not in the mood for this nonsense. Just get out of my way!
At this point, I knew I wasn't going to get a response. I thought about getting out of the car and facing him, but I admit, I was afraid. Something in his face was wrong. The man gave me a sense of death, and I felt that if I got out of the car, I would never get back in. As I thought about how to get away from him, my body froze as I saw him react for the first time. His eyes stopped twitching and he began to walk slowly towards me, getting closer and closer. Suddenly, voices blocked his way.
Sir, what are you doing?
They were policemen watching the scene from afar.
Sir, do you know this guy?
No, man, he just stood in front of me. He doesn't let me pass or answer me.
Excuse me, you are gonna have to come with us. Sir, back the car up and leave. We will stop him.
I did as I was told. As I backed the car up, I watched as the man tried to run towards me, ignoring the resistance of the policemen. Tired of the man's impertinence, the cops grabbed him and held him between them. And as I watched him being handcuffed, I went back to my house. After showering, I got my instant food and went to sleep. It had been a terrible day, worse than I expected. I relaxed my eyes, which were slowly closing, and I fell asleep. Shortly after, a strange feeling of discomfort made me open my eyes. They had not yet adapted to the darkness, and everything was blurry, but I knew something was wrong. It felt like it happened a few seconds after I closed my eyes, but I knew I had actually slept for hours. My eyesight began to adapt to the darkness, and when I could finally make out what was in my room, my tranquility turned to absolute terror. In front of me was the man who hadn't stopped me from driving by last night. Only now, he was watching me from about 2 meters away from where my bed ended.
What the hell? What the hell are you doing here?
The police let me go. Looks like I look harmless enough to them.
Get out, or I'll call the police!
Happy anniversary, kiddo.
What? How do you know that?
In prison, you get a lot of friends with a lot of information. It was very easy to find you if my wife told me she was going out with an Amazon guy.
Prison? Are you...
Every time I see you, I imagine my wife's and son's faces screaming in the car before they died. How was it that only the killer survived? Were you wearing your seatbelt? Did you let the truck hit only on its side?
I don't know.
Of course you don't know. Adam Park, by the power vested in me by the state of California, I convict you guilty of a crime you did not commit.
Please, it was an accident. Don't kill me.
Consequently, I sentence you to 10 years in prison, while your wife and child are killed by an Amazon imbecile who falls asleep on the road.
No!
I was sure I was going to be executed at that moment. Many times in the past, I contemplated taking my own life because of what happened. But not this time. I wanted to live. Like help from heaven, the man's gun jammed and the bullet didn't come out.
Damn thing.
I took advantage of the situation to pounce on him and struggle. He was notoriously stronger than me, but the smell of alcohol made me realize that he had been drinking before coming and was not in optimal conditions to fight. I managed to get the gun away from him and threw it as hard as I could. We both lay on the floor staring at the ceiling, and we both started to cry.
I'm sorry, okay? Those two were my life too. There's not a day that goes by that I don't think about what happened.
I know. Damn, I miss them so much. Why couldn't you go with them?
There's not a day that goes by that I don't think that.
Relax, Amazon guy. We'll both be with them soon.
What do you mean?
Confused, I looked in his direction and my eyes widened in surprise. The man was holding a grenade in his hand, ready to explode. As soon as I saw him, I stood up and ran as fast as I could. Suddenly, I heard a loud explosion, and I don't remember anything else. When I woke up in the hospital, I was surprised to be alive. I was back in an accident where other people lost their lives, but I lost something in the process. The doctor said I would soon get all my hearing back, but what I would never get back were my legs. I thought several times about taking the easy way out and taking my own life. But that day, something saved me from that grenade. Something prevented the rifle from going off. Was it my wife and son? Or just a stroke of luck? No matter what it was, I will live my life as long as I can in their memory, as they would have wanted. In this video, you can see a creepy little girl dressed as a ballerina, behaving really odd. The man who captured this video asks her, what is she doing in this strange location? That too, in the middle of the night. But without replying him, she slowly dances her way off, hiding behind a wall in an even more creepy way. The story you are about to see is a dramatized version of this real-life footage.
Please tell us. Please, Grandpa.
I promise we won't be scared. We're grown-ups now, Gran.
Okay.
I was sitting in front of the fire, sipping brandy when my two grandchildren, Joshua and Martha, started pleading with me to tell them a scary story. I have had quite a share of bizarre and spooky incidents throughout my life, especially in those days when I worked as a night security guard. I remained silent, thought for a second, and then said,
This incident is probably the weirdest and also scariest one that I faced in my night shift working in a morgue.
Whoa, bring it on.
I smiled seeing Martha's excitement and went on with my story. The morgue I worked in was located on the outskirts of town, unlike the common morgues, which are generally situated within a hospital premise. This one was different from all. Here, the bodies were stored to be sent off to the funeral homes after being declared accidental deaths. My job was to make round around the morgue facility to prevent all kinds of illegal trespassing after the closing hours. The only reason I took the job was the good pay and also the fact that I never had to step inside the morgue. My work concentrated on the outside premises. There was a small tool shed near the gate, which was transferred into a security room for me to sit and rest in between my rounds. It was a mundane Tuesday night. I was finishing a leftover sandwich after starting my second round when I heard a hissing sound.
Psst. Psst.
I came out from the tool shed, and as my eyes noticed the main gate, I got goosebumps. A homeless old woman with no hair or eyebrows was sitting in a crouching position outside the gate and calling out to me.
Psst. Psst.
Hello? Do you need anything?
My daughter just sneaked inside while playing on the street. Please let me in so I can call her.
Your daughter?
Yes, she's dressed as a ballerina.
Ma'am, I don't think a kid can get in here.
I'm telling you, she ran away. She is hiding in the dark. She loves dancing in the dark.
No matter how freaky this woman sounded, I still decided to check the premise. Because if a kid has entered this place, then I must escort her to her mother. So I went back to the shed, grabbed my flashlight, and began the search. The premise was so big that it took 15 to 20 minutes walking to finish one round. Though there was a big light post scattered throughout the facility, I still preferred carrying my flashlight just in case. I walked for 10 minutes straight without spotting any little girl. Just when I was on the verge of giving up, I heard the voice of a little girl, reiterating a nursery rhyme.
The itsy bitsy spider crawled up the water spout. Down came the rain and washed the spider out. Out came the sun and dried up all the rain. And the itsy bitsy spider went up the spout again.
Oh, who's there?
I asked loudly, and the rhyme stopped. Drops of sweat appeared on my forehead. I asked again.
You know, you can't be here, little girl. Your mom is looking for you.
Just then, running footsteps brushed behind me with the creepy laugh of a 5 or 6-year-old. I immediately turned around and, to my surprise, saw a little girl dressed as a ballerina standing at some distance. Her head was down to the ground, and she grabbed her dirty, flowy skirt from both hands, with her small, filthy hands striking a ballet pose as if she will start dancing any minute now.
How did you get in?
From the hole in the wall.
There's a hole in the wall? Where?
Right there.
Saying this, she lifted her hand and pointed towards the dark corner on her left. I thought, once I take her out, I will check the spot she just talked about. So, I took one step toward her when she chuckled in a very creepy way and said something that made my skin crawl.
I want to peel all your skin off.
What? What did you say?
She suddenly started to dance like a zombie ballerina, sliding her leg one after the other and slowly disappearing into the dark corner. Not knowing what to do next, I stood there in fear. I honestly didn't have the guts to follow the kid. Once she hid in the dark corner, I heard her singing that rhyme again.
The itsy bitsy spider crawled up the water spout. Down came the rain and washed the spider out. Out came the sun and dried up all the rain. And a itsy bitsy spider went up the spout again.
Look, you can't stay here at night, so come with me. Your mom is waiting for you. Come on.
She got silent again, and gathering all my strength, I turned on the flashlight and walked to the dark corner. There was a wall separating the corner from the fence. As I peeked behind the wall, I saw the little girl sitting on the ground now. She had her arms crossed onto her knees and buried her face inside them as if someone has scolded her. I flashed my light on her, and she suddenly lifted her face and looked at me. What I saw still gives me nightmares. For the past 20 minutes, whom I have been mistaking for a 5-year-old little girl, is an old, freaky-looking woman with the rare condition of dwarfism. Her teeth were falling off in places. Her pale, wrinkled skin made her look vicious in that attire of a ballerina. She laughed and spoke to me, but this time, her voice changed drastically.
Looks like my sister and I have scared the hell out of you. Don't mind. This is what we old women do for fun at times. We get so bored, you know.
I screamed at the top of my lungs and turned to run away. The dwarf old woman too got up and started to chase me while singing the nursery rhyme.
The itsy bitsy spider crawled up the water spout. Down came the rain and washed the spider out. Out came the sun and dried up all the rain. And the itsy bitsy spider went up the spout again.
I ran at full speed straight to my tool shed. I noticed the gate, and the other old woman was still sitting outside it with an eerie smile on her face. I got in and slammed the door of the shed, locking it from the inside. The ballerina stopped outside my window, blew me a kiss, and then ran away like a kid. I didn't peek out from my window to check if the two sick, crazy sisters are gone. I stayed inside the tool shed till the morning lights hit the premises. When the morgue director came, I handed him over the keys, told him to repair the hole in the wall, and left my job. A spooky silence stayed in the room once I finished my story. Both Martha and Joshua looked scared to their cores. Neither of them spoke and went to bed with scary bedtime stories imprinted in their minds forever.
I bet there are decisions you made or things you did when you were young that you now regret. Maybe more, maybe less, but there's always one that you remember in a traumatic way. In my case, what happened revolves around Justin Bieber. When I was a teenager, I loved his music. I was singing his songs all the time, as I knew them by heart. My room was decorated with lots of Justin Bieber posters, and I even had a shirt with a picture of him on it. You know, typical when a teenager is obsessed with a famous singer. Anyway, I remember that I went absolutely crazy when I found out that he was doing a concert in my city. It didn't take long for me to beg my mom to pay for a ticket so I could go. Please, Mom, I have to go. It's Justin. You know how much I adore Justin. Please. I'll think about it. After making a deal, she agreed, but there was one condition. I couldn't go alone, although I wasn't going to anyway. My best friend, Anne, was a huge Justin Bieber fan too, so we wanted to go to the concert together. That afternoon, I called her to tell her the news. Anne, my mom gave me permission to go. Oh my god, we'll get to see Justin together. I know. We both bought the concert ticket, and from then on, we waited, very excited for the day to come. When it was finally that night, I put on my Justin shirt and went to talk to my mom, who was going to take me to Anne's house. Let's go, Mom. Is Anne ready? She has to be. Soon we got in the car and went to my best friend's house. Once we got there, I called her a couple of times, but she didn't answer, which worried me, since I knew Anne would never be late for Justin's concert. I'll go ring the bell. I did as I said, and very soon I heard someone running toward the door. When the person opened it and I could see her, I couldn't believe that it was Anne.
I'm sorry, Ash. My makeup took longer than I thought.
The most obvious detail was that she had dyed her hair blonde, but it didn't suit her at all. In fact, that color made her look sick, along with her pale skin. Besides that, she had put on too much makeup, so her face looked strange. Meanwhile, her clothes weren't much better. Like me, my friend was wearing a shirt with a photo of Justin, but she had personalized it and had written "I love you" in red paint, probably in a rush, since it was very badly written. Ash? Yeah. Okay, Anne, let's go now. When my mother saw Anne's appearance, the expression on her face became one of surprise and concern, but she soon stopped looking at her and started driving to the concert venue. How are you, Anne? I see you got a makeover.
Yeah, don't I look good? I think blonde hair suits me, just like Justin.
The moment my friend said that, I turned to look at her. Her weird smile, which was accentuated by her red lipstick, gave me a bad feeling. It didn't take long to reach our destination. Once there, Mom parked the car and we got out. Thanks, Mom. Have fun, and don't forget to call me if anything happens. Sure, see you later. Suddenly, Anne grabbed my arm and began to walk quickly. Anne, wait! You're taking too long. If I don't get to see Justin just because of you... Wait, what? You are not taking this as seriously as you should. We came together because we're fans of him. Or are you not? You don't mind being late? What are you talking about? Of course I am. You were the one that... You know what? Let's forget it. We came to enjoy the concert. Speaking of which, what do you think about my makeover? In the blink of an eye, my friend's attitude changed, leaving me more confused than I already was. It's fine.
I know. I'm sure Justin will give me a chance.
A chance? Although my friend was really worrying me, I tried to put the matter aside and focus on the concert. The truth is that even if it is a bad memory for me today, at the time, it was fantastic. I listened to my favorite singer, screaming and crying with emotion, just like Anne. When it was finally over, she and I left the place. But before I could call my mom to ask her to come get us, Anne grabbed my cell phone.
Hey, chill out! Don't you want to see Justin?
Huh?
Let's chase him!
Once again, my friend had that disturbing smile on her face.
But since when are you such a coward? If you don't want to go with me, I'll go alone.
Anne started to run, and since I didn't want to leave her alone, I followed her. Behind Justin Bieber and his bodyguards were a large number of people. Some of them were paparazzi taking pictures, and others were just fans, like my friend and me.
Stop pushing me.
Somehow, Anne and I managed to get through the crowd and be within a few feet of where the singer was.
Get out of the way!
As soon as I saw my idol walking down the stairs to enter the basement of that building, a great emotion grew within me. Unable to contain myself, I pushed the others around me aside and ran toward him.
Justin! Thank you very much. I came here just for you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Pleased that he had heard me, I walked away in the direction of Anne, but I felt as if my heart stopped once I saw her.
I hate you!
Her eyes were filled with hate, and her face red from how furious she was. Suddenly, Anne pushed me with such force that I fell to the ground.
What? You are a bitch!
What the heck is wrong with you, Anne? What are you saying?
Justin is mine! You should have listened to me, not you, whore!
I'm tired of this, Anne. You're out of your mind. I quickly got up, grabbed my bag, and walked away from her. I didn't understand what was happening to Anne, but it had been enough.
Don't you dare!
Suddenly, I felt a strong pain in my head as she was pulling my hair.
Ah! He's mine! Mine! Do you understand, slut? All mine!
That night, some of the people who were there were able to separate her from me, but she had managed to pull out several chunks of my hair. After that, I never spoke to Anne again, but my mom had to contact hers. According to what she told me, the girl who had been my friend had to be hospitalized to treat the obsession she had for Justin Bieber, since they discovered that she had even hurt herself for him.
Nobody coming to my club. Hey, no, you lock the door. Don't do that shit again. Or what?
Justin, thank you very much. I come here just for you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Sheila, I hate you.
My name is Adam, and I am one of the first urban explorers to get some fame on YouTube. The story I'm about to tell you may seem unbelievable, but for you to believe me, I will hide my identity. I have no intention of becoming famous with this. I just want you to be careful and not live the same as me. Like most of you, I grew up watching cartoons. You could say that I gave a chance to everything they aired. I liked everything equally, except for a show called Courage, the Cowardly Dog. Every time that show came on, I would quickly change the channel, and I never understood why there was something about the animation that I didn't like. When I watched it again when I grew up, I fell in love with the show. I became obsessed with the show. I wanted to know everything about it. One day, while exploring on Reddit, I discovered that the house where the show was filmed is real, and everyone who was in it reported paranormal events, and after a while, they just disappeared. After doing a huge research, I found the address of the house. I knew I was probably not going to find anything, but this was going to make a great video for my YouTube channel. Without thinking twice, I convinced my girlfriend to come with me, and we set off that same weekend. A van pulls up to the front door of the house. The place looks just like the cartoon. They both get out and look each other in the eye.
Are you sure about this?
Wow, are you gonna chicken out on me this soon?
No, but this place gives me a bad vibe.
We'll be fine. It's just an abandoned house.
I don't like this. I don't want to go in.
As I entered the house, I immediately felt pressure in my chest that made it hard for me to walk. It was possibly the same thing Amy felt, but I avoided saying it so she wouldn't get scared. The place was more terrifying than I thought. Not because it was destroyed, but because it was surprisingly clean, as if it had been recently inhabited.
Adam, what the hell is that?
It's just a box of toys. What's the problem?
The problem is that it wasn't there 20 seconds ago.
What? Now, Amy, sure it was. You're freaking out over nothing again.
You're right. We're already here. We should keep exploring.
Let's look up a bit, and I promise we'll leave. Out of my house!
I didn't have any cuts, but the fall had left my body very sore. I raised my hand for Amy to help me, but instead of doing so, she simply walked up the stairs as if hypnotized. I got up as best I could, and limping, went to look for her. I didn't even think about the man who pushed me, who was simply gone when I looked back up the stairs. At the top of the stairs, the small hallway led to 2 doors. I ran to open the door, and there was Amy on the other side of the door, looking out the window.
Amy, what the hell have you gotten into? Didn't I just tell you to leave?
The man who had pushed me was standing in front of me, looking at me from the room that a few seconds before was closed. His gaze was unyielding. His eyes were full of anger, and his fingers were moving impatiently.
Sir, I don't want any trouble. Something strange is happening to my girlfriend and your girlfriend. You should worry about yourself, kid. I'll just go to my truck and get help, okay? She's looking really bad. I'll just go look for her, and I'll go...
The man looked at me very strangely, as if he was about to explode at the first thing that bothered him. I started walking down the stairs. When I reached the door, I felt relieved. I was about to escape. All of my happiness vanished in a second. The door wouldn't open.
You can't leave now.
My attempt not to anger the man quickly turned to desperation. I knocked and forced the door as hard as I could, but it wouldn't open. I tried to open the window, break it, anything that would help me escape, but nothing worked. It was like I was in a bunker. Meanwhile, the man was slowly coming down the stairs, almost mocking me, but without a smile.
Oh, the fun you and I will have.
By the time the man was almost beside me, I had given up. I fell to the floor crying at the mercy of whatever was going to happen to me. Suddenly, a light came from behind me. The door had opened, and Amy was on the other side.
I heard you scream. Are you all right?
Amy, run!
I grabbed her arm and ran with her. I got into the truck and looked in the back. No one was there. As I was looking for the keys, Amy broke the silence.
What the hell happened to you? Did you see anyone inside?
Amy, how did you get here? Did you jump out the window?
What? Are you crazy? I've been in the truck this whole time. I told you I had a bad feeling about that place and I didn't want to go in, remember?
No, that's impossible. You were in the house with me. Don't you remember anything? The toy box, the man, the stairs.
Adam, I never went into that house.
Confused, I looked into the rearview mirror to see if the man had come out to chase after us. When I saw the mirror, I gasped. The house I had just been trapped in, the house that had been perfectly maintained, was now destroyed, old and dilapidated. It was as if I had been in a different place.
Hey, did you say there was a man and a box of toys? What did the man look like?
Tall, middle-aged, black hair and a mustache.
That was David Parker Ray, a serial killer.
A killer? He needs to be reported now!
David Parker Ray died in 2002.
But how is that possible?
Amy didn't answer my question, and we both remained silent for the rest of the trip. When I got home, I checked the camera in my chest for evidence of what I had experienced. The recording was corrupted. It had never happened to me before, but I wasn't surprised either. That day, I had a sample of what the people who lived in that house felt, and that was enough for me. After that day, I continued to do urban exploration, but in the mountains or places where there was nothing paranormal. I was never going to provoke the unknown again.
In this video, we can see how a music teacher behaves violently with his students. In this animated dramatization, we will see how a joke played by some of his students turns into the worst day of their lives. I love music. Since I was a child, I've been in contact with it because my parents were part of a well-known musical duo in which my mom was the pianist and my dad was the singer. Whenever they would take me to their shows, I would look at them amazed, thinking that I wanted that for myself in my future. I tried several instruments, but I was definitely in love with the violin. The lessons at my school were not enough for me, so I went to private lessons to perfect my technique. When I was in school, I was way ahead of the rest of my classmates. Our music teacher, Mr. Langsley, was a substitute and seemed like a great man. He loved the violin more than his family, and in the first lesson, he didn't hesitate to show us how talented he was with it. But of course, appearances can be deceiving. As the months went by, he showed us that he was a highly unstable person. Every time one of the students played badly, he would get angry and scream. He never had a problem with me, as I was the best student, but that didn't mean I approved of how he disrespected my classmates. We were coming to the end of the school year, and my friends and I weren't going to leave without playing an innocent prank on him.
Are you sure about this, guys?
Sure, why not? I mean, with the rest of my grades, I could have easily taken a nap in class and still passed.
Yeah, he can't fail us. But what about you, Evan? I already disapproved, but it won't change anything.
Then it's all settled. How will we do it?
Basically, we'll play all the instruments wrong. We'll start with one and then another and so on. Oh my god, he's gonna go crazy!
When the professor entered, everything went according to plan. Langsley got angrier and angrier. The fact that even I had failed made him realize that we were playing a joke on him, and he didn't take it well. He pounded his fists ferociously on the table and gave a war cry. No one was scared. We all laughed at him since we were used to his tantrums. When the class ended, he was still furious, totally out of his mind. But surprisingly, he called out to us much more calmly than I expected.
Nia, Scott, I need you two to stay after class to have a chat.
What about me, Professor Langley? Do you want to talk to me too?
Evan, we both know there's nothing left to talk about with you. Now, go away.
A pleasure, sir.
Now that he's gone, we can talk.
Sir, first of all, I want to say we're sorry.
No. We're past that point. Grab your instruments.
More confused than scared, we listened to him and sat in our chairs. His attitude was calm and determined. We had never seen him like that before, and honestly, it scared us both.
What you did today is unacceptable. Not only did you ridicule me in front of my students, but you also made fun of the music. You interrupted something beautiful to make a joke, and from you, two of my best students, my prodigies, I will not tolerate it.
Sir, as Nia said, we are...
Before Scott could finish the sentence, Langsley pulled a revolver out of his pocket and pointed it at the young man's face.
Say it. I dare you to say you're sorry again, and I'll open a hole between your eyes.
We were both paralyzed with fear, unable to say a word.
Much better. As I said, you both have to be punished. And you know what? I will only punish one of you. Now, they are going to repeat the melody they ruined in a loop. Each time they will do it faster, and the first one who ruins it again will be punished. What do you think?
Have you lost your mind?
I won't play any damn music. Let us go, or we're gonna call the police.
My life is over. You can call whoever you want, but first, you must survive this afternoon. Now, both of you are going to play as if your lives depended on it. Understand?
We both nodded, and with his direction, we began to play. I always played the violin with calm and happiness. I felt how the music passed through my body. It was poetry. Now, none of that was happening. I was playing, trembling while crying. It was hard to breathe, and in each musical note, I felt I was getting it right just for a split second. I couldn't lose my concentration in turning to look at Scott, but I knew he was feeling the same way I was.
What the hell are you doing? That's it? Come on! Faster! Faster!
The minutes passed, and we both kept playing perfectly, but the fatigue started to take over me. My wrist hurt like hell, and my arm burned like never before. Without realizing it, I had begun to sweat.
And I call you prodigies? You're a damn joke! And if you don't pick up speed, I'll kill you both now!
Crying, I bit my lip and gave a desperate scream, closing my eyes as tightly as I could as I stopped feeling my arms. All I could think was faster, faster. My mind went blank. I felt like I was going to fall at any moment. I couldn't do this for another second. I felt a screeching sound on the violin. Had it been mine? Had it been Scott's? I opened my eyes as I felt a cold metal on my forehead.
You can stop. You won.
I turned and looked in Scott's direction. He was crying inconsolably, staring at the ground.
Never, never disrespect music again, Nia. Now go.
With no strength to answer him, no strength to fight or try to save my friend, I stood up and walked toward the door. My legs were shaking, and as I looked at them, I realized that I had wet myself.
Walking with great effort, I reached the exit door, and crying, I looked at Scott. Scott, I'm sorry. He didn't turn around, and I left the classroom. As I was walking through the halls, I felt an explosion coming from the classroom. I immediately grabbed my chest. That shot was probably at Scott, but it felt like it went through my heart. People started going to the classroom, passing by me as if I was a ghost. Suddenly, I heard another gunshot, this time accompanied by screams. A short time later, the police were at my house. My parents were comforting me as I told them everything that had happened. The crime was ruled a homicide and a suicide. That same day, Langsley had killed his wife and son and went to teach his last class. After that, it took me a long time to reconcile myself with music, but eventually I was able to do so. More than a decade later, I became a music teacher. Like Langsley, I love music, but the difference is I treat my students well. I help them, educate them, and give them all the tools they need so that in the future, even if they don't go into music, they will learn to be better people.
A wedding is supposed to be the most beautiful moment in a person's life. That moment that you remember when you are old and bore your grandchildren with videos. Sorry to bore you, but my wedding was like that. Even though we met only a year ago, it was a unique moment where Sharon and I showed the world our love from beginning to end. With a wedding like that, the honeymoon could only get better. Or so I used to think. We had planned to spend our honeymoon on a paradisiacal beach in Brazil. And at first, the plan went perfectly. Very much in love, we got on the plane, and between laughs and glances, we felt that the trip lasted only a few seconds. Our first night in the hotel was very passionate. We kissed inside and outside our room. Some people were touched, others looked at us a little uncomfortable. We didn't care. We could only think of each other. The next day, I had to go pay for some excursions while Sharon slept. I had not planned to wake her up, but when I was already changed, leaving, I heard her beautiful voice speaking to me from the bed.
Where are we going, hun?
Oh, I didn't want to wake you. I'm going out to pay for the excursions to go to the islands by boat. I'll be back soon. You go back to sleep.
My husband encourages me to keep sleeping. I think I won the lottery.
Sure, but now that you've woken up, you have to pay the cost.
I approached and kissed her.
I've never been so happy to pay for anything. Don't keep me waiting too long, babe. I'd hate to miss you too much.
Oh, you know I won't, babe. I'll be right back.
I went to buy the excursions to a beach where different locals were offering them. After finding the best package to leave the next day with Sharon, I anxiously returned to the hotel where my wife was waiting for me. I arrived with flowers in hand, expecting Sharon to jump out and kiss me. But the scenario I encountered was a totally different one. When I opened the door, my wife was on the bed crying. I dropped the flowers and ran to see what was happening, and when I looked at her closely, I screamed in terror, full of sadness and fury. Her eye was red.
My God, are you okay, Sharon?
No, a man came in here and hit me.
What? Did he do something else to you? Where is he? What did he look like?
He didn't do anything else. He just came in here and started hitting me. He's still here. He didn't have time to leave.
Okay, you go call someone. I'll go check.
No, come with me. He can hurt you.
No, I won't let this creep escape after what he did to you.
Slowly, I approached the bathroom. I knew I had to grab a knife or a stick to defend myself, but I was so blinded by anger that I couldn't turn around and grab one of those things. I was furious. This man had ruined my wife's honeymoon. I was going to make him pay no matter what, be it with a gun or just with his fists. I turned on the bathroom light and found no one. I checked behind the door, and it was also empty. I slowly approached the last place he could be, behind the shower curtain. This was the most obvious place, so I wanted to leave it for last. These curtains were special. You couldn't see anything behind them. I approached slowly, ready to face whatever was on the other side. Every step I took filled me with anticipation. Would the man jump out and attack me on sight? With one hand, I grabbed the curtain and pulled it violently. I opened my eyes in surprise at what I was seeing. There was nothing. Absolutely no one was hiding in the bathroom.
Ah! Help!
At Sharon's screams, I ran in her direction and confusion took over my body. Sharon was hitting her own face.
Sharon?
Help me! The man is back! He's hitting me!
Sharon, stop it! You're hitting yourself!
I went running to help her, but suddenly, she stopped.
You can't help her. You can't help anyone.
Her voice, her look, and her way of standing had changed. Sharon looked like a different person.
What are you saying, Sharon?
Sharon is not here. I'm the one who hit her. You wanted to find me? Come on, you got me here. What are you gonna do about it?
What the hell was going on? Were all the horror stories I heard growing up real and Sharon was possessed? No, that doesn't make sense. Maybe she has multiple personality disorder. I've known her for a year. Why is this just happening to her now?
Lover boy, you're not gonna do anything about it?
Stop it!
You know what? People like you disgust me. Sharon dumped me for this? A goddamn Romeo who cowers and stands by while his wife gets beaten? You're pathetic.
You're Sharon, don't you get it? Look in a mirror!
Nice try, stud. But you know what? If you can't protect your wife, she's gonna pay.
Why aren't you helping me? He's going to kill me! Stop him!
I ran to where she was, and in desperation, I pulled the knife out of her hand. She didn't put up any resistance, but she began to convulse. Out of her mind, she fell to the floor and started shaking violently. I didn't know what to do, so I pulled her as hard as I could to bring her back to her senses. I was terrified. I was afraid that Sharon would die at that moment. Suddenly, as if nothing had happened, she came to her senses and screamed as loud as she could.
Why are you hitting me? Stop it! I thought you loved me! It's our damn honeymoon. You can't leave me alone even on the happiest day of my life?
What?
Surprised, I let go and heard noises around me. I looked to my side and the door was open. At the door, a maid and 2 security men were looking at me angrily. After that, it was all downhill. As if I were someone else. Sharon accused me of beating her before and after the wedding. No one believed my story. And she was not only very consistent in hers, but she asked in the terror never to be in the same room with me again. The divorce papers came soon after, and I understood everything. I was a very wealthy man, and she wanted a piece of that. Today, we are working this out with our lawyers. Sharon thought she could beat me in court if she had witnesses to back her up. What she didn't know was that in some few hotels in Brazil, it is allowed to film the rooms for security reasons. I do not consider this a victory since I lost the one I considered to be the love of my life. If she had been possessed or if she had multiple personalities, I would have gone to the ends of the earth looking for a priest or a psychologist to help her. But today, I understand that this is not the case. The truth is that I proposed marriage to someone I barely knew. When only one life is not enough to know someone completely.
Get the hell out of here.
2 people were camping in the woods at night when they heard strange sounds coming from a bush nearby. As they flashed their light in the direction where the sounds were coming from, they see a weird-looking creature coming their way. The story you are about to see is loosely based on this scary, terrifying footage found in the forest. I was sitting on the hospital bed with a heavy bandage wrapped around my head. A doctor came in and asked,
Hi, I'm Dr. Macy Graff. How are you feeling now, Matthew?
A little better. Where's Shelly?
She's still in shock from last night. We had to put her on sedatives so that she could rest. Don't worry, she will be all fine.
2 cops entered my room, and Dr. Graff introduced me to them.
Matthew, these are officers Brad and Carlos. They'll be asking you some questions about last night. If under any circumstances you feel sick or need medical attention, just reach out to that bed switch attached to the stand. A nurse will come immediately, okay?
Yeah, sure. When can I see my sister?
The moment she wakes up, I'll personally come take you to her room, okay?
Thanks, Dr. Graff.
Dr. Graff left me with the 2 policemen, and they sat on the couch next to my bed. The tallest officer between them looked at me with a caring smile and asked,
Does your head still hurt?
A little.
Matthew, we're here to talk about what happened last night. Can you walk us through it?
Drops of sweat appeared on my forehead as I recalled the most terrifying memory of my life. Yesterday, my sister and I went camping in the woods behind our farmhouse. We came to stay here for a week with our parents. And being 2 grown-up teenagers, me 17 and Shelly 15, it wasn't our first time going camping in these woods. Shelly and I are both nature lovers, and we love spending our siblings' quality time exploring the wilderness. We separate our duties and create as many exciting memories as we can on such trips. So around 4 in the afternoon, Shelly and I left for our hike, carrying our rucksacks and tents to camp after nightfall. We clicked pictures of some rare birds in the forest, enjoyed our lunch near a beautiful lake, and once it got dark, we camped under a big bushy tree close to that lake. The moon was full, and its magical silver splendor lighted up the night sky. We started building a fire. That's when we heard the rustling of leaves coming from behind. I flashed my light, spotting a bushy tree, and Shelly screamed in fear.
Ah, who is that?
We saw a man standing in the dark wearing nothing but dirty pajamas. He was shaking his head in a very creepy way, like he was trying to get rid of flies. A bad odor came from his body like he hasn't taken a bath in years. Feeling intimidated by this man, I said in a fumbling voice,
Hey, are you all right?
He mumbled without answering my question. Shelly grabbed my arm in fear and whispered,
Why is he acting like that?
Hey, dude, who are you?
Now the man slowly lifted his head and looked at me. I have never seen such a cringe-worthy, expressionless face in my life. His eyes were like the eyes of a dead fish, huge, weirdly sharp. His nose seemed odd too. In a few words, he didn't look normal or sane at all. The man smiled at us real big and spoke for the first time.
Are you guys lost? What? No, we're camping. Hey, is everything all right, man?
He ran his filthy arm all over his chest, looked at the sky, and then said,
I don't feel cold anymore.
Shelly said in a fearful voice.
What are you doing here? And where are the rest of your clothes?
The man looked at her and licked his lips in a very freaky way. He then nodded his head from left to right, like he was saying no, and spoke again in his raspy, snake-like voice.
Why would I need clothes when I am wearing a skin?
What the hell does that mean?
I calmed Shelly down, who was afraid of this man.
Look, we don't want any trouble, so if you...
But the man didn't let me finish. A growling sound came from his stomach, and he said,
Would you mind if I join you? I am hungry.
Shelly prompted in my ears.
There's no way he's joining us. Matthew, tell this man to leave right now.
Relax, just let me talk to him.
I looked at the man, who was still standing like before, watching us without blinking. I don't know what happened, but I just couldn't say no to him. I replied,
Sure, you can join us. We have plenty of food.
What are you doing?
Shelly yelled in a low voice. I told her it would be fine and that she has nothing to worry about. We started to walk back to the camping site, and the man followed. Upon reaching, Shelly built a fire and sat in one corner, grabbing the hunting knife close to her chest. But the man didn't seem intimidated by that. He didn't even look at the knife properly. He was just staring at the night sky and giggling on his own. I put the chicken on the rod to roast it over the fire. The entire time I cooked the chicken, the man made very weird remarks. He asked,
What is that you are burning?
That's a chicken. Haven't you seen one before?
Why are you burning it on fire?
Shelley and I exchanged a surprised look and said,
We're roasting it so we can eat it. Oh, I see.
What's so funny about that?
I bet it would taste much better uncooked.
Now I felt goosebumps on my neck. Shelley didn't speak for seconds, and I realized it was a mistake to invite this guy for dinner. Once the chicken was done, I separated into pieces and gave the man some on a disposable plate. Taking the plate from his hand, he didn't eat the chicken right away. He smelled it like a dog, and then put a little amount into his mouth. As soon as he took the first bite, something awful started to happen to him. He began to get sick, and bile rushed into his system, desperate to come out. The man started to cough and choke, like any minute his insides will come out of his mouth. He grabbed his throat and fell to the ground, trying to breathe desperately. In that coughing voice, he said,
It's coming out! It's coming out!
Matthew, what's happening to him?
I got up in a panic and yelled.
Oh God, what's happening to you?
But the man couldn't speak anymore. He continued coughing, and then big, grimy bile came out of his mouth. Green slime poured like rain from his huge mouth. And then, the ultimate horror took place. An entire rotten mouse came out of his mouth like he devoured the poor animal whole. With a splashing sound, the mouse fell to the ground, and Shelley screamed in horror.
Ah!
She fainted right there, and I was too shocked to speak a single word. After vomiting his bottom out, the man stood up from the ground, shaking uncontrollably. His hands and chest were still dripping with his vomit. Giving a big, toothy grin, he said to me,
Thanks for your hospitality.
And then he ran into the forest at full speed, disappearing into the night. The cops exchanged a suspicious look, and then Officer Carlos asked,
Were you guys doing any drugs?
I heaved a sigh in disappointment because I expected this reaction from them. The cops asked me many more questions, thinking it was all a mistake, a mere hallucination of two teenagers after drinking in the woods. But I can still remember his face, his eyes, even the stinking odor that came from his body. I am not sure what to believe after this encounter.
Some people make fun of me when they find out I got divorced just a few weeks after I got married. Some say, you weren't tolerant enough. Marriage is serious. You have to work things out. And some say, you made a mistake. You got married too soon. But they all fall silent after I tell them what really happened. I'm quite an extroverted woman. I love going to parties, dancing, and having fun. It was on one of those occasions that, after having a couple of cocktails and dancing for a while, I started to feel dizzy, which was unusual. I soon sat down on one of the stools in front of the bar and realized that next to me was a handsome man who seemed to be alone. Hey, what's your name?
I'm Philip. What about you?
After that night, where he and I talked and had fun, it didn't take long for us to become a couple. Philip was just the perfect man for me. Kind, caring, and funny, although he was an introvert. He didn't like to go out and interact with people too much, but he understood that I liked doing that, so it wasn't a problem for us. Within a few months, we became very close.
You are my whole world, darling.
Oh, Philip, you're so romantic.
I'm not done. I love taking care of you. I don't care if I'm not the only person you think about, because I only think about you all day. You're the one I have loved and will love the most. That's why I want us to be together for the rest of our lives. Will you marry me?
Oh my god, of course I will. The wedding was as I had always imagined it. In fact, Philip pleased me with every detail, but the situation was different when we talked about the honeymoon. Where would you like to go? Europe, perhaps? I would love to go to countries in South America, or...
We won't travel to another continent.
Huh? Why not?
I want to travel somewhere far away in this country. I'll drive, I don't mind.
But won't that be tiring for you? Maybe...
I've already agreed to all the whims you've wanted. May I remind you how much money we're going to spend on that perfect wedding you asked for? What else do you want? Our honeymoon will be inside the country, understood?
Sure. There's no need to... I was just worrying about you.
Sure, 'cause you are the kindest person ever.
He decided that we would visit a place to which he had made a trip of several days. But that didn't bother me, since Philip had made a good plan. He had decided where we would eat and which hotels we would stay in before reaching our destination. It was all perfect. The first day, we left very early in the morning. We stopped for breakfast, lunch, and dinner at different restaurants along the way. By the time we got back on the road, it was so late that the sky was dark and the road was being lit by streetlights. When are you going to tell me where we're going? My husband looked at me for a few seconds before returning his eyes to the road, but he didn't answer me. Come on, honey, I want to know. Are you really going to keep me waiting for 2 more days? Please?
Ugh, stop it, Blair. You're driving me crazy. Why are you so impatient? Wait a bit.
I just wanted to...
It's a fucking surprise. How difficult is that to understand?
You don't have to be upset about it. I was just kidding.
What is he doing?
Suddenly, my husband stopped the car. Huh? In front of us was a man who was walking while pushing a baby stroller in the middle of the street. Even though I couldn't see him clearly, I noticed that he was a muscular and bald person who was wearing clothes that were not suitable for the weather. The stranger got so close to us that Philip started to drive in reverse. Philip? I didn't understand what my husband found so funny about it.
I mean, what is this shit?
Philip, wait.
Look at that!
He continued to drive further and further away as he laughed. Philip! My husband, once again, stopped the car from one moment to another. I soon turned to look at him, face to face. What are you doing?
What does it look like? I'm getting away from that man.
What if he needs help? We can't just leave him like that. Ah! When I turned my gaze forward, that man was there. This time, his face was being illuminated by the headlights, so I could see him clearly. He had some very noticeable scratches, as some were red and others purple. On the other hand, his jaw caught my attention, as it was quite bigger than usual. He struck me as a disturbing-looking man. In fact, I started to feel cold due to how pale I had turned.
Aren't you going to help me?
Since I could barely hear him, I rolled down the car window a little. What? What are you saying?
Won't you give me a ride? I really need it.
Well, you see,
My baby is really cold. We need to get home soon.
We're on our honeymoon. Maybe...
He will die. He is going to freeze, and it will be all your fault.
In a quick move, the man turned the baby stroller around so we could see what he was carrying inside. What the heck? All this time, the man had been carrying a bird that seemed to be dead. Its wing feathers were even missing. Suddenly, Philip began to drive in reverse again. What the heck is so funny? In just a second, my husband's mocking expression turned serious.
Do you think his creepy ass will be missed?
What?
Well, I don't think so.
After saying that, Philip started to drive forward at high speed. What are you doing?
He scared you!
So you want to kill him? Stop, Philip!
I won't.
Oh my god, no! The baby stroller was now lying on the ground a few feet from us, but the man was nowhere to be seen. Suddenly, he put his hand on the hood of the car.
Go to hell!
Ah! Due to the impact, the man's jaw had completely disengaged, but I didn't have to see that shocking appearance for too long as he fell to the ground again. Oh my god, I tried to get out of the car, but something grabbed one of my arms and stopped me.
What are you planning to do?
You just ran someone over, Philip.
You can't get away from me!
Leave me alone! I didn't hesitate to punch him in one of his eyes.
Ugh! You have to be with me forever! I'll drug you again if necessary!
Luckily, the employers of a nearby store helped me that day. Although I was there, it was difficult to accept everything that had happened, but I still did what I had to do. I am now in divorce proceedings and waiting to give my statement in Philip's trial for the murder of that man.
In this real case, a hiker discovers posters of a missing person in a forest. Terrified, he films everything he can, but his story doesn't end there. In this dramatization, we will see how a creepy discovery quickly turns into the worst day of his life. The life of a hiker is not easy. We consider ourselves adventurers, people who want to live life to the limit. We expose ourselves to the wilderness, to wildlife, to the unknown. I have known many colleagues who have run great dangers for different reasons. But no matter how crazy the stories they tell me, none of them experienced what I went through that day. I didn't encounter any wild animals, suffer a dangerous fall, or get lost in the forest. That day, my life was in the hands of another man. That forest was not unlike any other I had ever been in. There were few animals, and I had been that way before. That day, I felt a little more confident than usual. So when I started to cross the forest, I opened up a little more from the route I had taken the previous time. I knew I would remember the trail. I am a very experienced hiker and I know my way in the woods. As I went on, I saw something in the distance that caught my attention. The trees ahead of me had something white in the center. Whether it was my danger spirit or a complete lack of common sense, I approached to investigate. From a distance, I could imagine that what was on the trunks of the trees were papers. What I could not imagine was their nature. I took out my camera and began to film my discovery, not knowing what I was about to find. I grabbed one of the papers and, incredulous, I read it while I felt my body begin to tremble with fear. These were not just papers. They were missing person posters.
What is this?
I continued filming the whole area and discovered that just behind the trees was a tent. Suddenly, my camera ran out of battery and turned off.
Okay, well, that's the signal that I need to get out of here right now.
No, I think this is the perfect time for you to stay.
As I turned around, I fell to the ground in shock. A man was standing behind me. The person was not armed. He didn't even have a knife, but something in his look didn't let me react. The man was almost 2.5 meters tall. His body was long, lithe, and intimidating. His long, dirty fingernails moved along with his fingers, waiting for me to make a move to grab me.
You seem to be a very curious boy. Will you accompany me to my camp?
Sir, please, let me go. I swear you'll never see me again.
Oh, calm down. I'm not even armed. I just want to talk.
More than leaving me alone, this last one made me even more afraid. This person was very confident. I, on the other hand, was terrified. Resting was not an option. Not only did I not know how to fight, but my body was frozen with fear. It was as if I were a mouse being stalked by a bloodthirsty tiger, and he knew it. Without saying anything to him, I listened to him and walked ahead of him toward his camp.
Don't be afraid of me, kid. I'm not a monster, I just suffer from gigantism. You know I won't do anything to you, right?
Of course. I believe you.
We both knew the other was lying. Only with his frantic look and his huge smile revealing his few remaining teeth, I could tell that this man was ready to kill me.
All right. Give me your cell phone and your wallet.
Without showing the slightest intention of fighting, I gave him everything.
I have an idea. Frank, have you ever played Truth or Dare?
Yes.
Well, you know, I was born in Argentina. In my country, we call it truth or consequence. Today, we'll play that. But we can only choose truth. If the bottle points 3 times at me, I'll let you escape. If you lie to me, or if the bottle points 3 times at you, there will be consequences. You can start.
Nervous but obedient, I listened to him and spun the bottle. It was pointed at him.
Ask.
You caused those people to disappear?
Every one of them. It's my turn. Today is your lucky day. Ask.
Are they buried here?
I said with a little more relief, with a tiny hope that he will let me go if the bottle hits him one more time.
How curious you are. No, they are not. If you lose, I'll show you where I buried them. What were you going to do with what you filmed on that camera?
Don't lie. I was going to upload it to the internet.
Your turn.
I didn't even try to control the spinning. I knew that cheating would cost me my life. But when the bottle stopped on me again, I regretted not having done it.
Maybe you're not so lucky. Let me ask you a question. These are the pictures of your mom and sister, right?
With a mischievous smile, he showed me my own cell phone.
Please, don't.
I moved away from the bottle and started crying at his feet.
I beg you, don't hurt them.
If you die, who should I kill? Your mom or your sister?
No! No!
Choose, or I'll kill you now.
Just kill me. But don't do this to me. I can't answer that.
Choose, or I'll kill both.
My mom!
Can't believe you actually chose.
It's what she would want.
So, if you lose, I'll grant her wish. Time to see what luck has in store for you, boy.
As the bottle kept spinning, I closed my eyes. I couldn't see the result. At the psychopath's laughter, I summoned all my energy to open my eyes, and to my surprise, the bottle had been left on his side.
Will you let me go?
On one condition.
What?
Use your question. Ask me what would have happened if the bottle had fallen on your side.
His face had changed. The smile had faded, and his eyes denoted a huge contempt and cruelty towards me.
What? What would have happened?
I would have jumped immediately to where you are. I would have torn off your clothes and dug my dirty fingernails right into your abdomen. Then I would have cut a hole in your belly with just my hands.
and I would have used my few remaining teeth to feast on your organs. But you won. You can leave.
Still terrified, I stood up and started walking. A huge shadow rose behind me and tapped my shoulder.
By the way, I'll keep your wallet and cell phone. I want you to upload your video to the internet. You're welcome to come whenever you want. But if I see a cop here, everything I told you I was going to do to you, I'll do to your sister instead. Do you understand?
Yes.
As soon as I said this, the shadow disappeared. I didn't try to check if it was behind me. I just walked, crying, until I reached the road. A few days later, I kept my word and uploaded the video. After that, I sold all my belongings, and with my sister and mother, we left the country. I never told anyone about this, and from that day on, I am still a hiker, but I always go out armed and in big groups.
Go ahead and tell everybody what the you're doing. What the are you doing? What love? I don't know you. Out of here!
I don't want to seem self-centered, but I am a beautiful woman, although that's not necessary to be harassed. Very often, I used to hear anecdotes from my friends about how men had chased them in the street, said nasty phrases to them, and even dared to touch them. That always made me feel somehow lucky, since something similar had not happened to me. For a long time, I thought it was because I had just been lucky, but that was not the case. Without realizing it, I had not been harassed because I was always accompanied by a man. My father, my brothers, or my friends. It's sad, isn't it, that a woman is only safe next to a guy, which sooner or later would have to change. That year, I had started my studies in biological sciences. The vast majority of my friends had moved on to other universities, and I still hadn't gotten to know too many of my classmates, so the only person accompanying me back then was Emma, an old friend who was now a nursing student.
June, wait for me!
We usually ate together. In fact, that afternoon, after class, we decided to go to a cafeteria near the faculty.
What are you gonna eat?
I don't know, probably a sandwich and a coffee?
Ha! Sometimes you're too boring to be true.
Hey, to check how much money I had, I opened my bag and started looking for my wallet.
I don't have enough.
When taking out my wallet, suddenly, a pink piece of paper fell to the floor.
Huh? You dropped something.
Without giving me time to react, my friend grabbed the paper, opened it, and began to read it.
Oh.
Soon, she took her eyes off the paper and turned to look at me mischievously.
Why didn't you tell me? We just started a few weeks ago, and look what you've achieved.
What are you talking about, Emma? She extended her hand to me. That's when I grabbed the paper and looked at what was written there. "Will you go out on a date with me, June?" was what it said.
Why do you look so surprised?
What on another occasion would have been a romantic detail at that moment made me want to vomit, since I still had no new friends, much less a potential partner.
June? I don't know who did this.
And it wasn't just that. I had no idea when someone could have put that in my bag.
Hey, relax. Maybe they just put it in the wrong bag. It says my name, Emma. Okay, I'm sorry, but calm down. Look at it this way. This person is too cowardly to talk to you, so they're not going to try again.
I looked at the paper for a few seconds while I thought. Either way, what else could I do?
If you say so.
As the weeks passed, I practically forgot the matter, since no one told me anything about it.
Good morning, June.
During that time, I had met Jareth, a classmate. For some reason, I had always found it easier to talk to men than women, so most of my friends were guys.
I thought the professor would be here by now.
Nope, looks like today's your lucky day.
Yeah. You know, you haven't given me your cell number. Do you think you could?
Of course. I tore a piece of paper out of my notebook and wrote my cell phone number on it.
Here it is.
Thanks, June. I'll text you so you can save mine.
After that, class started normally. When it finished, I packed my things and walked toward the exit while putting my cell phone into my bag. That's when I saw them. 2 pieces of pink paper were there. At that moment, I felt my heart start beating fast. "Did you forget, June?" and "Will you go out on a date with me?" were what was written on the papers. Nervously, I crumpled them up and tossed them into the trash can. Soon, I turned around to look at the people present in the class. My eyes moved from side to side in search of whoever was responsible for those papers, but no one was even looking at me. Feeling like I was losing my mind, I crossed the door to leave the class, but I bumped into someone halfway. "I'm sorry." The man in front of me had Asian eyes. His hair color was black, and he had a beard that was just beginning to grow. His appearance was quite normal at first glance, but after a second, his pale skin, the dark circles under his eyes, and above all, the strange way he was looking at me disturbed me.
You should be.
After listening to him, I quickly moved away.
Hey, June, are you gonna leave without saying goodbye? Hey, are you feeling all right?
Not really. I have to go.
Okay. I hope you feel better soon.
Thanks, Jareth. When I got home, I felt a little better. I still wasn't sure what to do in that situation, but I knew I had to face that person. Suddenly, I heard my cell phone ring. I had received a message. "Answer me," it said. I assumed it was Jareth, so I replied, "Hi, I'm sorry I left like that." After a few minutes, another message arrived, but it was from a different cell phone number. "Hi, June, I'm Jareth. How are you feeling?" it said. At that instant, due to the shock, I felt a strong dizziness. "You haven't answered me yet, June," was the next message I received. "Don't ignore me. Do you want to go out on a date with me?" Terrified, the only thing I managed to do was block him. I had no idea how the stalker had gotten my cell phone number, and in fact, that was precisely what had made me so nervous. What else about me could that person know? Are they following me? Do they know where I live? The next day, even though I felt horrible since I hadn't been able to sleep, I decided to go to class, which was in the afternoon.
Are you okay, June?
Do I look that bad?
I didn't say that. Maybe you need to distract yourself. Would you like to go eat something later?
Maybe. When the class finished, it was already night. After thinking about it for a bit, I decided to accept Jareth's invitation, since maybe he was right. "I'll wait for you outside." I walked to the exit of the building and waited for Jareth in front of the doors. It was then that a classmate approached me.
What game do you think you're playing?
"Excuse me?"
Why did you block me? Why don't you answer me?
"It's you."
Answer me.
"No, say it."
What?
Go ahead. Go ahead and tell everybody what you're doing.
I'm trying to make love to you.
What are you doing? What love? I don't even know you. Soon, the man began to approach me, and suddenly, he put his hands on my neck. "Get out of here!" Even though I tried to walk away, he wouldn't let go of me. In fact, he started to choke me. The next thing I knew was that Jareth had pushed the man away and was beating him up, but I soon passed out. Today, I'm in the hospital, recovering from the attack. Jareth came by a while ago and told me that a man is in police custody. Even if I'm terrified, I'm going to do everything I can to make sure that stalker gets what he deserves. In the video, you can see a girl exercising in her apartment when all of a sudden she hears a knock at her window. She screams when she notices a man trying to get inside her apartment. The man further says that he wants to be her friend. The terrified girl immediately asks the man to leave. The story you are about to see is a dramatized version of this creepy real-life footage. This happened in my earlier days of moving out. I went house hunting with a friend and found this cool apartment in a nice neighborhood. People in the building seemed welcoming, and I didn't think a second more before moving in there. My parents stayed in Utah, so I was on my own in a new city among strangers. Being an extrovert, I easily mix with people. I speak a lot and laugh a lot whenever someone talks to me with a smile. My nature never did put me in a bad place. So when I came across my next-door blue-haired neighbor on the stairs, I behaved the same happy-go-lucky way. Good morning, I'm Catherine, and you are?
I'm Randall. Aren't you a peach?
Well, have a nice day.
I live next door to you, so come by any time you like.
Saying this, he winked at me in a very flirtatious way, which set me off a bit. He was the same age as my uncle, and the way he looked me up and down made me feel awkward. I smiled and left for work. The entire day, I couldn't concentrate. Those creepy, wide eyes of Randall checking me out as if I was some shiny new toy kept flashing in my mind throughout the day. To divert my mind from this creepy neighbor, I went out for a couple of drinks with my colleagues. Around midnight, I came home. I was a little drunk. As I stood in front of my door, ransacking my backpack and searching for the keys, I heard the door of the apartment right behind me creak open.
Any trouble, Peach?
Turning around, I saw Randall standing behind me, close and smirking. I didn't hear a single footstep, which made me more scared when I saw him standing so close to me. I somehow contained my fear and said, nothing, just looking for my keys.
Well, if you want, you can stay the night at my apartment. You won't need keys for that.
No thanks. I finally found my keys and went to unlock the door when Randall grabbed my hand and whispered in my ear.
The sooner you start to like me, the better it will be for you, Peach. Good night.
He let go of my hand and went to his apartment, slamming the door in my face. I was so scared by this encounter that for a few seconds I just stood like a statue, shaking from the inside. I couldn't sleep the entire night. Should I go to the cops? But all he did was make conversation. No cop would arrest him for that. And if I go to the landlord to complain about him, I'm pretty sure he'll make my life even more difficult after that. So I decided to sit on the matter. For the next few days, whenever I would see him on the stairs, he would give me an evil smile. I avoided him like a plague, but the troubles didn't end there. It was a Friday night, and I was exercising in my apartment while playing some loud music. Heavy rain was pouring outside, followed by thunder and lightning. I was doing when huge lightning struck. My eyes went to the big glass window on my left, and I froze. A horrifying face was pressed against the window, watching me work out.
Oh my God! Who are you?
Suddenly, the man outside my window lifted it open, and I finally recognized him.
Randall? What are you?
Come on, no need to shy away. We are friends, remember?
No! We are not friends! Get the hell out of here!
He slowly got inside from my window. Just then, there was another huge lightning strike, and the power went out. A creepy blue light captured my apartment, and I saw Randall staring at me like a vulture. He licked his lips and said,
What if we work out together?
Ah! Help!
I screamed and ran for the door. Randall chased me like a wolf and grabbed me by my hair.
Enough of your teasing, Peach. You are mine for the night, and I will make sure you walk with a crutch after I'm through with you.
He pulled me away from the door and threw me on the floor.
You thought I was joking, huh? You thought you would just ignore me, and that would be it? You are so stupid, little birdie. Now, you'll know what happens when you ignore Randall. I will chop off your wings and hang them to dry.
Please, You don't have to do this. I mean, we can be friends, right?
Oh, now you want to be my friend. Do you think I was born yesterday?
I could see my painful death by this crazy psycho's hand. But I too made up my mind. No matter what happens, I am not going down without a fight. I am no damsel in distress. It's time to be a knight in shining armor and save my own life. I slowly got up and tried my best not to look scared. I then untied my hair, unzipped the jacket I was wearing, and gave Randall a lustrous look. I'm sorry, Randall. I should never have treated you the way I did. I should have listened to you the first time. I'm ready to be your peach. Just don't be angry with me, please?
Really? You mean that?
Yes, I do. Why don't we go to my bedroom and have some fun, huh?
All right. Good that you've finally understood the rules of this game. You are a peach, after all.
I slowly turned around to walk to my bedroom. My phone was there, and I just needed one single opportunity to grab it and lock myself in the bathroom before Randall could lay his hands on me. As soon as we entered the bedroom, I went to grab my phone, but Randall was way smarter than I thought. He twisted my arm after grasping it with his inhuman strength. I screamed in writhing pain as my bones snapped.
Ah! Don't try to act smart with me. You are not the first girl I'm gonna be assaulting tonight.
What he said somehow triggered the fighter in me. He lunged at me to throw me on the bed, but I moved and grabbed the bedside lamp instead. Not wasting another second, I smashed the lamp right on his face. It shattered into pieces, injuring his partial face badly.
You witch! My eyes!
He collapsed on my bed in excruciating pain, and I grabbed the keys to my apartment and locked the bedroom door on my way out. I called the cops while Randall screamed and kicked on the door from the inside. Thank God my bedroom door was strong enough to hold this evil man inside. The cops came and arrested him. Once the news of his arrest hit, 3 girls came to the station, bringing serious allegations against Randall Rudolph. One of them had to use crutches to walk. The hair at the back of my neck stood up when I recalled the threat Randall gave me that night. He wasn't kidding after all. These 3 girls used to be the former tenants of my apartment. 2 of them moved away to avoid any more trouble, and the one that threatened Randall with going to the cops ended up on crutches. It's sad that out of fear and humiliation, most women opt out of reporting their assaulters, which gives these vermin a second chance to go on with their heinous crime. Randall is now in prison, and I am still living in this apartment peacefully. Our landlord faced charges for sheltering a criminal under his roof. It's shocking that even after he got complaints about this man, he did nothing. So Randall, who assaulted 4 girls, landed 1 on crutches and me in a cast for my broken arm. I hope you rot in jail forever.
No mames.
As a matter of routine, aircraft security guards are required to inspect aircraft before the public boards them. What this security guard didn't know is that he would be accompanied on this inspection. The story you are about to see is a dramatized version of this real-life footage. Being an airplane security guard was never my dream job. I knew a lot of people who enjoyed being a guard, who loved the danger, and went into the job expecting a lot more action than what was actually there. Me, I knew what to expect. Teenagers making out in the bathroom, the occasional drunk person, and maybe some lost kids. I used to think that was the ideal job, until the day I discovered that when danger is near, Not everyone is cut out to be a security guard. This is routine for all airlines, to check for stowaways or anyone who might want to harm the rest of the passengers. These walks would not usually take more than a few minutes. Get in, turn around, and leave. That was my least favorite part of the job. I admit it, I'm a bit of a scary cat, and entering a dark plane, even a harmless one, terrified me. But that day, I was dying to go check the planes. Not because I felt brave or because I wanted to do a good job, but because outside the plane, something terrified me even more. From the beginning of the day, a man was sitting at the airport, staring at me. At first it seemed strange and had made me a little uncomfortable, but no more than that. But when almost an hour had passed, and that man was still there, watching every move I made, I became frantic.
Hey, if he looks at you so much, why don't you go say something to him? Are you crazy? Just look at him.
The person didn't look exercised. He even looked like he had some kind of deformity. But even so, his body looked huge and imposing.
Maybe he's in love with you. Do you want me to go ask him for his number for you? Hey, shut up! He might hear us. Joseph, are you out of your mind? We're 20 meters away in an airport. There's no way he can hear us. I know, but it's still scary. Oh my God.
Without saying anything else, my partner went in the direction of the man, and in the distance, I saw him talking to him. I remember thinking that the man remained calm while my partner was talking to him. He even gave him the documentation he asked for. But all this made me even more afraid. Even with my partner next to him talking to him, he was still looking at me. A few seconds later, my partner came back.
Well, the good news is that he's clean. He's expecting a ride in an hour. Well, I don't need you to tell me the bad news. I already figured that out. I know, but he'll tell you anyway. That man didn't look back at me anytime. He only looked at you. Okay, that's enough. What will you do? Will you face him? Hell no! I'm gonna ask the boss to make me go clean the toilets or do something else. Classic Joseph.
My partner thought it was a joke and that I really wasn't scared of the man, but he was wrong. I was horrified. My manager had compassion and allowed me to go check on the planes before they left. Sometime later, I realized that this decision was terrible, because not only was I entering a dark and cramped place, but also I was completely alone, or at least that's what I would have liked to believe. I began to explore the plane. Although by now it's routine, I still can't get used to doing it alone. A new rule of the administration to avoid wasting people. I walked to the bathroom, looking at all the seats on the sides without meeting anyone. When I was in front of the bathroom door, a noise almost made my heart stop. Was there someone inside the bathroom? I knocked on the door, but there was no answer, and the noise continued as if nothing had happened. It was faint, but I could hear it. I gathered all my courage and violently opened the bathroom door, and to my surprise, I found myself face to face with the author of the noise, a simple insect.
And how the hell did you get here?
I breathed calmly, closed the bathroom door, and prepared to return. I walked quickly towards the entrance, but something stopped my steps and paralyzed my body. A huge shadow was poking its head out of the exit door. I regained my body's energy and quickly ran to the bathroom, not realizing that I was closing myself in even more. The shadow stopped looming and showed me his full body. It was the man from before, who had somehow snuck onto the plane.
Sir, get out of here. This place is private.
From the other side, there was no response. The man remained completely frozen, looking at me with his huge and imposing eyes. I pulled out my radio and began to speak in agitation, hoping to scare the man.
Hey, it's Ramirez. I have a situation on the plane. A man got on without authorization, and I can't get him off. Could you send someone, please? Yeah, of course, man. We'll send someone right away. Hey, I've already called someone. Go away, or we'll get you out together.
Still, without saying anything, the man started to walk slowly toward me.
Whoa. Stop, or I'll have to use force.
All of a sudden, the man was ahead of me, still staring at me with his expressionless and gloomy face.
Sir, get away!
Without letting me finish, the man grabbed my neck with one hand. he had incredible strength. Effortlessly, he lifted me into the air, and when I thought he was going to kill me, he threw me against the seats. Even though I didn't hit anything solid, my back hurt a lot. Before I could react and get up, the man was next to me again. He brought his hands to my face and violently pressed his fingers over my eyes. The pain was indescribable. I felt like I was going to die at that very moment, and I didn't even understand why. Luckily, I was able to give him a lucky kick in the man's crotch, which stopped him long enough for me to run away. I locked the door of the plane from the outside and kept running, looking for help. When my partners arrived with the police, they entered the plane with guns. Finding him was not difficult. The man was just sitting on the toilet, staring blankly. They took him away, and he did not put up any resistance. He was just gone. Shortly after, I was informed that the man was not under the effect of any drug. He was not a psychiatric patient, and they could not even identify him with his ID. It was as if nothing made sense. As if the dead himself had decided to visit me. No one ever understood how this man got his plane ticket or why he did what he did. I didn't ask what happened to him and decided to quit the next day. From now on, I would only look for office jobs. Never again would I expose myself to the unknown. In this image, you can see a house very similar to the one shown in the cartoon, Courage, the Cowardly Dog, where its main characters live. Courage, Muriel, and Eustace. This place has been abandoned after the family who used to live there disappeared. That day, I was going to the house of my cousin Josh, whom I considered like a brother after the childhood we had to live together. I needed a break to get away from the city, and he knew it. So when he offered to let me stay at his house for a while, I accepted. Before leaving home, I heard how my cell phone was ringing.
Are you on your way, Ryan? Yeah, is something wrong? No, I was just checking. Be careful and call me if you need help.
It was relatively close, so I didn't think I was going to have much of a problem. But when I was halfway down the road, where there were hardly any buildings nearby, the car started having trouble running.
Really?
Of course, I called my cousin and told him about the situation.
Okay, I'll go there. Any, landmarks?
Looking around, I saw a house in the distance.
There's a house nearby. I think it's made of wood. It has a stone chimney and it looks like... Shit. It looks like the house from Courage the Cowardly Dog. Yeah, I know which one you mean. I'll be there soon.
After I finished the call, I got out of the car so I could check the engine. The instant I raised the hood, a lot of steam came out.
Oh, that's great news.
Since I hadn't brought any water, the only option I had was to go to that house and ask for some, since I didn't want to wait for Josh idly.
Hopefully a kind old couple lives there.
Without waiting any longer, I walked quickly towards the place. Once there, I noticed that it was much quieter than you might expect.
Hello?
I knocked on the door twice. The house looked in good condition, if a bit old.
I don't want to bother. I just need some water to put in my car.
I was about to leave when I heard some sounds coming from inside the place.
Hello? Please, I just need a little help.
But again, no one answered. This time, taking a look at the window of the house, I noticed that they had wooden boards.
Huh?
I went closer and tried to look inside through the boards. In fact, these prevented light from filtering into the house, so it was quite dark.
Ah!
Did I scare you? Hello?
Hi. I knocked on the door several times. I thought there was no one in the house.
What do you want?
I need some water.
Thirsty, huh?
It's not for me. I'll put it in my car. I think it needs it.
Okay, come in.
Suddenly, he opened the door. I approached, but I had no intention of going in. The man standing in front of me gave me goosebumps. He looked old, had a bushy beard, and it was very thin. The man was dirty, as were his torn and worn clothes. But the most noticeable detail was that he was wearing what looked like a dog's fur on his head and shoulders.
What are you waiting for? Come in.
It's not necessary. I just need a bottle of water and I'll go.
Get in.
In a quick movement, the man grabbed my arm and pulled me inside.
Not many people pass by, so it's nice to have a visit.
Inside, the house was totally different from its external appearance. There wasn't much light, so I couldn't see it in great detail, but I knew it was dirty. There were things thrown everywhere, and the furniture was in very poor condition.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure what to do, so I just humored him to help me.
Do you want something to drink? A coffee or a tea? I have food too.
I could tell he was trying to be nice, but his creepy smile only made things worse.
Thank you very much, but that's not necessary. Like I said, I just need some water.
And you will have it.
What?
I'm busy with some things. Go to the bathroom yourself and get the water. It's next to the kitchen, over there. On the table, there are some bottles you can use.
Once he went into another room, I headed towards the kitchen. The place didn't smell too bad, but since there was almost no ventilation, the musty, earthy smell was so strong that I was beginning to dislike it. I grabbed one of the surprisingly clean bottles and opened the bathroom door. That was much brighter than the other rooms. I quickly walked over to the sink, which was covered in black, brown, and green stains.
Ah, disgusting.
I soon turned on the faucet so the water would start to come out, but it didn't.
Huh?
Suddenly, I started to hear some strange sounds, and then I saw something coming out, but it didn't seem to be just water. It was dark, like it was mixed with earth or something, and also denser than usual. I focused on filling the bottle with that liquid a little bit, but not to use it. When I brought it up to my nose, I didn't detect any unpleasant odor.
What the heck is this?
I tried to hold back the scream that wanted to come out of my mouth as best I could. My heart was beating very fast.
Are you done?
Are you kidding? This isn't even water.
What are you saying? Of course it is. I drink it all the time.
When he started to laugh, I could see that in his mouth, full of rotten teeth, there were little worms moving. In the blink of an eye, I was out of the house, running to my car while avoiding throwing up.
Ryan, there you are. Did you go to the house? You left the keys in the car, man. I want to ask for help. Really? That place has been abandoned for years. Let's go. I already fixed everything. Okay, Josh. Okay, Josh.
That day, my cousin found me in the bathroom of the abandoned house, lying on the floor while hallucinating. Of course, Josh took me to the hospital, where I had to stay for several days. According to what doctors told me, I had ingested hallucinogenic substances. I told them about the man, since I was sure it was his fault, but no one believed me. To this day, even if those hallucinogens are gone, I still feel like there is something wrong inside of me.
Huge fan! Oh my gosh! I need a photo with you. Austin, you don't even understand how much of a fan I am. Oh my gosh! I need a photo, Justin. I need a photo, Justin, please. I need a photo, Justin. I need a photo, Justin. Oh my gosh!
I usually receive insults when I say this, but Felix, my boyfriend, is not a bad person. Or rather, he wasn't. He was always a cheerful person, willing to help anyone in need, but the cruelty of the world around him corrupted him, and in a matter of a few weeks, I saw the destruction of the person I love. It all started that day, the day he was going to fulfill his dream to meet Justin Bieber. He lived, consumed, and breathed Justin Bieber. His music got him through hard times, and since then, it's been a huge part of his life, to the point where our son, just a year old, is named Justin. That day, Justin Bieber was in our town. Felix did a lot of research to find him, all to get a picture with his idol. I still remember how he asked for that day off, and while I went to work, I could see him at our house with those characteristic bright eyes full of joy. Not only would Felix not get the photo, but his rejection would go viral. That night, he came home later than I did, crying. He locked himself in his room and refused to talk or even eat. Over the next few days, I tried to support him as much as I could, but it was no use. It was just me against the world. I found out from mutual friends that his coworkers saw the video where he was rejected, and instead of supporting him, they made fun of him. Justin Bieber fans were insulting him on the street because they thought it was all a plan to make their idol look bad. Non-fans saw him and laughed out loud, ridiculing him for his height as well. Little by little, Felix began to be alone. His closest friends supported him, but he thought they were making fun of him behind his back, so he stopped seeing them. To make matters worse, Felix began to resent our son because he reminded him of Justin Bieber, and that was more than he could tolerate.
My God, can you shut that little animal up?
Little animal? Look, you can be as angry as you want to be, but don't mess with our son. He's just a baby. He hasn't done anything to you.
Oh, give him time, Katie. In a few years, he'll be taller than me and he'll make fun of me too. He'll see his daddy on the internet and he'll die of embarrassment. I'm sure you already do too, you little fucking bitch.
What?
Oh, don't play victim. All people are the same. Everyone makes fun of me behind my back. You're nice and kind to everyone, and for what? To be the little joke of everyone you meet.
Enough! If you don't want to lose the only people who will always support you, you have to stop this right now.
No, you won't give me a damn order. I always say, that's enough, and nobody pays attention to me. So why am I always the one who has to stop?
What is your problem? Why did you grab that knife? Does it make you feel more manly?
So I'm not man enough, huh? So you're making fun of me too.
Drop the knife, now!
At that moment, Felix approached me with the knife, glaring at me furiously, gritting his teeth in helplessness. I was prepared to defend myself however I could, even if that meant I had to give up my life. Luckily, Felix took a deep breath and turned around.
I was just going to cut me a damn apple.
That night, Felix didn't sleep with me. Part of me was glad he didn't. We were both nervous. The days after that were pretty strange. Felix talked to me just fine, as if nothing had happened, but something about him was different. At times, I could feel him just staring at me, attentive to every move I made. I felt very uncomfortable, but when I asked him what was going on, he just laughed. Maybe I was a little paranoid. The Wednesday that passed was his day off, the day he was supposed to take care of little Justin. That day, Felix was particularly cheerful and told me to go to work as usual. I went with a smile, thinking that father and son were starting to get along again. But whether it was a mother's instinct or just a hunch, I felt something was wrong. After a few hours, my instinct won. I told my boss I was feeling sick and left several hours early. I went into the house and put my finger on the light switch, but before I turned it on, something caught my attention. The house was filled with a strong smell of gas. I decided not to flip the light switch and opened all the windows, letting the natural light illuminate my home. When my eyes cleared, I couldn't believe what I was seeing. Justin was on the kitchen floor, crawling around. Next to him, all the stoves were on, filling the house with gas. Shocked, I looked at the light bulbs. They were broken. If I had come home from work later and turned on the light, the house would have burst into flames. I quickly grabbed Justin, worried he might suffocate, but he was fine. The gas had been turned on recently. I called Felix, not knowing what I was going to tell him, but to my surprise, the phone rang near me in the garage. After turning off the gas and leaving Justin in a safe place, I grabbed a knife and walked slowly toward where the noise was coming from. ready to defend myself from my son's father if necessary. With every step I took, I felt my heart pounding harder and harder. I got goosebumps, and in an impulse of courage, I took a small leap toward the entrance of the garage. It was empty, and the cell phone was on top of the table, ringing. I checked his cell phone to find some clue as to what was going on, and found more than I wanted to. Felix had many messages from people telling him where Justin Bieber was staying. Looking at the online purchases he had made, there were enough guns and ammunition to wipe out a small army. Still in the garage, next to where I had found his cell phone, the home camera monitor showed a particular recording. For the last few nights, Felix would go from our bed to Justin's room and spend hours standing in front of him, knife in hand, doing nothing. At that moment, it became clear to me what was going on. Felix was going to kill me and my son in this house while he was initiating a shootout at the hotel where Justin Bieber was. Heartbroken but determined, I called the police and told them everything. That same day, they caught Felix and locked him up. I was aware that if he went to trial, it would be my testimony that would convict him, but it never came to that. A few days after he was arrested, he committed suicide inside the prison. The singer's lawyers paid me not to talk to anyone about what happened. They didn't want to know how easy it was to find the idol and try to kill him. I wanted to give my son a better life, so I accepted the money and watched as all of this just became an internet story. Felix was forgotten by the world. I know he was a good man, but society turned him into a monster. If you have a loved one who is being discriminated against or is going through a hard time, support them as much as you can. You have no idea how much you will miss them when they're gone.
I don't feel comfortable recalling this one particular memory as it gives me anxiety and panic attacks. Years back, I used to work for Amazon as a delivery guy. I had a small car which I drove to the delivery locations to drop off the packages. So this one time, I was driving on this stranded highway. It was around 5:40 in the afternoon, and due to the cloudy weather, there wasn't much sunlight around. Thunder was rumbling, but it hadn't started to rain yet. I checked my engine oil, and I realized I had to stop for gas as soon as possible. There was this one gas station which I saw fast, but there was already 5 to 6 cars standing in the queue, and I didn't want to wait. I checked the map and saw another gas station after 15 minutes. Thinking I would take gas from there, I kept on driving. It was the biggest mistake of my life. After taking a left shown by the GPS, I got onto a dusty road surrounded by woods. The road was so bumpy that it was pretty difficult to drive faster. I was concentrating on the road when I saw a man wearing nothing but ripped trousers standing on the side of the road. Thinking he might need help, I stopped my car. This was mistake number 2. The man was standing in the woods staring at me. He had big scars on his body and was covered in dirt like a wild animal.
Everything okay, man?
No!
His voice was so weird. I have never heard someone talk like that. It was like a broken howling sound came from his mouth. Thinking he had met with an accident, I got out of my car, which was mistake number 3 that resulted in the final strike. Seeing me coming out of the car, the man also took a few steps toward me and then stopped. I asked again.
Do you need any help?
But now the man did something which started the most horrific nightmare of my life. He got down on the ground like a 4-legged animal and started crawling toward me while grinning in a very wicked way. Before I could make out what the hell was wrong with this guy, I ran towards my car. The man also started running while being in the crawling position. I could hear his howling laughter from behind. But before he could get to me, I got inside the car, locked the doors, and pressed hard on the clutch, starting the engine. But as I already said, the condition of the road was pathetic. I failed to see a big ditch on the right. My car took up sudden speed, and before I could anticipate it, the right wheel fell inside that ditch, making a huge jerk. My car got stuck. Drops of sweat appeared on my forehead as I saw the dusty road ahead of me, surrounded by deep woods. The only way I could get out of here now is to get out of the car, use the scissor jack to lift the right wheel, and then drive away. Suddenly, a tapping sound appeared right next to my window, and I slowly turned around, expecting to see the man standing there. But to my surprise, there was no one.
Ah!
I screamed for my life as the man jumped on my car bonnet. He pressed his scary face on my car windshield and stuck out his tongue on the glass. The man had a huge tongue and it was black and filthy. He started licking the windshield glass. His saliva dripped on it, and I couldn't take it in anymore. I vomited inside my car. Seeing me vomit, the man began to laugh and said,
I would love to torture you till you start vomiting red.
His wide, scary eyes pierced my soul. With trembling hands, I dialed 911. The dispatcher took my call, and I said in a fumbling voice,
Please send the cops. I need your help, please. Don't be scared. I'll be right here until the cops arrive.
Even though I gave my location to the dispatcher, I knew it would take at least 10 to 15 minutes for the cops to come for my help. Once I got off the phone, the man started to climb down from my bonnet. I checked all the car doors and felt a little relieved that they were locked. The man came to my window and tried to open the door. Realizing he can't, he gave me an eerie big smile and said,
Come on, let me in. What? What the hell do you want? Nothing. Just want to be your friend and make some memories with you. Look, the cops will be here soon, so either just get the hell away from here or stand outside like a psycho, because you can't get inside this car no matter what. Let me try.
Saying this, he turned around and started looking for something on the ground. After searching for a few minutes, he stopped and grabbed a huge rock. He then turned towards me, gave me another scary smile, and said,
Let's try, shall we?
Saying this, he threw the rock at my window, and the glass cracked, but it didn't break yet.
Ooh, you do have a thick glass. Never mind. I'll just give it another try. Holy smokes, just stop it. Stop doing this. What have I done to you? I stopped thinking you might need help. I mean, what the hell is wrong with you, man? Well, you were right. I do need help. And I like you already. You can be of so much help, you know. I have my cabin in the woods. I'll take you there after I knock you out with this rock. And then you will help me to have all the secret fun I want to have with you. Don't worry. I won't kill you. I will keep you alive so that you can enjoy too.
Saying this, he lifted the rock, preparing to throw it at my window. I closed my eyes because I could see what was about to happen next. No doubt, the glass will break down this time, and I will be in great danger. But before the man could throw the rock, I heard loud car horns at some distance. A big van was coming towards my car. As soon as its bright headlights fell on the crazy guy, he stopped. His face turned blank, and he put the rock down. He slowly turned his head towards me, looked me in the eye, and said,
Seems like this was your lucky day. Don't forget to stop for me if you come this way again.
Saying this, he ran into the woods, and I fainted in the car. The driver in the van also called the cops after seeing me passed out inside the car. He noticed my damaged car window and decided to stop for my help. I was later rescued by the cops, and I gave my statement about the man who attacked me that day. The cops told me they have found several empty cars, which their owners just somehow abandoned on the road. They have also reported 3 missing person cases, but even after searching the entire woods, they never found any cabin or any creepy man that matched my description. I don't know where he is now, but to all delivery persons and late-night drivers, do not stop for any suspicious person, especially when you are driving alone in a stranded location.
Buddy, how you doing? Oh, just some cruisers, man. That's crazy shit. up, dude?